On the day my childhood sweetheart, Liang's son, was forced by his father to get engaged to me, his white moonlight, Song Anran, died in a car accident on her way to see him. After the engagement, he spent every night socializing in different nightclubs, allowing rumors to spread wildly. This made me the biggest laughingstock in the circle. In the face of my questioning, Liang's son just sneered, "Since you were willing to sacrifice a life to marry me, no matter how wronged you feel now, you have to endure it." Until an accident occurred, both he and I were reborn back to the eve of the engagement. Without hesitation, he took Song Anran's hand and publicly broke off the engagement with me. Later, I announced that the engagement would be held as scheduled. Liang's son informed me indifferently, "Forcing me to marry you is useless. I won't attend the engagement banquet." I was silent for a moment, torn between whether to tell him now that my new fiancé was his little uncle. 1. I stared in a daze at the familiar scene in front of me. Liang's son's grandfather, who was sitting in the main seat, slowly opened his mouth. "Considering that you're about to graduate from university soon, it's time to set the date for your engagement." Only then did I belatedly realize that I had been reborn. Before I could sort out my chaotic thoughts, a familiar voice came from beside me. "I don't agree." Liang's son's eyes and brows were cold and distant as he said something completely different from what he had said in his previous life. "I have someone I like. But it's not you, Xia." He glanced at me. "This engagement can't happen." I suddenly understood. I wasn't the only one who had been reborn. Grandpa Liang suppressed his anger. "In what capacity are you challenging me?" Liang's son smiled and looked at me in a casual tone. "I've said I don't like you. You still insist on marrying me. Are you being cheap?" The next second, Grandpa Liang threw his chopsticks at him. "You scoundrel." Liang's son stood up unhurriedly. "You're forcing me to marry her just because you want a child from the Liang and Yu families, right?" There was a hint of frivolity in his smile. "Otherwise, how about I take her to a hotel tonight? If she gets pregnant, I won't have to marry her, right?" Liang's son successfully angered his grandfather, who threw the water cup in his hand mercilessly at the corner of Liang's son's forehead. The boy smiled self-deprecatingly. Before leaving, he glanced at me without much emotion. "2. Xia, go and bring him back for Grandpa." Grandpa Liang breathed heavily and said to me with difficulty, under the urging of everyone. I had no choice but to follow him out. My original intention was to go straight back to school, but as soon as I left the restaurant, I bumped into Liang's son and his white moonlight. "Song Anran, what else do you want?" Liang's son calmly protected Song Anran behind him and looked at me distantly. In his previous life, Song Anran received an anonymous text message and learned that Liang's son and I were going to get engaged. That's why she ran out and had the car accident. Liang's son always believed that I sent that text message. I spoke in a businesslike tone. "Grandpa wants you to go back." Song Anran nervously tugged at his sleeve. "Son, don't go." Liang's son stroked her head reassuringly before turning back to me and saying, "I made it very clear just now. It's impossible for me to get engaged or married to you." Impatience was hard to hide in the boy's eyes. "Also, please stop pestering me." His determination actually made me feel relieved. In this life, I probably wouldn't have to be tied to him anymore. My love for Liang's son had long been exhausted in his previous life when he publicly embarrassed me by hugging other women one after another. 3. I originally wanted to bypass the two of them and go back to school first, but Song Anran stopped me. "You Xia, can you promise me something?" I paused. "Promise what?" She bit her lip uneasily. "Promise that you'll never pester a son again. Last time I went to check the hygiene in your dormitory and accidentally saw your diary. Didn't it say in there that you like a son?" Song Anran's voice was weak but firm. "Now, as a son's legitimate girlfriend, I'm asking you to promise to stay away from him. Please understand." I took a step closer to her and looked directly at her. "You rummaged through my things. In high school, I always kept my diary in the drawer." Song Anran stepped back, looking a bit timid. "It was just a routine hygiene check." Liang's son frowned slightly and protected her behind him. "Enough, you Xia." "She didn't mean it," he soothed her in a low voice. "She doesn't need to promise anything. I don't like her, so it's useless for her to pester me." With that, he was about to take Song Anran away. That diary contained a lot of my unspoken secret love. How could she rummage through other people's things without permission and still act so calm? I chased after them onto the road and grabbed Song Anran's arm. "Don't you think you should apologize?" Song Anran bit her lower lip stubbornly. "I don't think I did anything wrong." I laughed out of anger. "Does your upbringing tell you that it's okay to rummage through other people's things?" Perhaps this sentence had a great impact on her. As soon as I finished speaking, her eyes immediately turned red, and she looked on the verge of tears. "Enough, you Xia." Liang's son irritably pulled my hand away. The next second, the red light at the corner turned green. A car rushed towards us. Before we could dodge, Liang's son probably influenced by the shadow of his previous life, pulled Song Anran away immediately. The shrill sound of the emergency brake was very close. Fortunately, I was only slightly scratched on the ankle and fell to the ground, and ran. Are you hurt? Liang Sun held Song Anran and checked her as if he had survived a disaster. The two were so immersed in their tenderness that they didn't even notice the driver leaving while cursing. After confirming that she was okay, Liang Sun finally came to his senses and noticed me trying to stand up from the ground. The street lights were flickering. I looked up and stared at Liang Sun without saying a word. After a long silence, he suddenly chuckled. He asked me with great interest, "Do you think this is karma?" He always thought that I was the one who caused Song Anran's car accident in his previous life, even though I had explained it countless times. I withdrew my gaze from the two who had left, endured the pain, and stood up. I patted the dust off myself. Fortunately, I didn't like him anymore and wouldn't be sad about it either. After that, Liang Sun's grandmother called me to their house several times. She earnestly advised me not to argue with Liang Sun, no matter what I said. Grandma seemed not to listen. A son is more stubborn now, except for his little uncle. No one can control him. Liang Sun's little uncle, Duan Wenye. He was also the actual person in power in the Liang family and the only one who had the same surname as the old master Liang. My only interaction with him was probably a year ago. When I was drunk, I played truth or dare and kissed a strange man in the booth next door. When we met again later and Liang Sun introduced Duan Wenye as his little uncle, I wished I could bury my head in the ground. As Grandma Liang was talking, a glimmer of an unreliable idea suddenly flashed in her eyes. She clapped her hands and muttered, "That's it." At that time, I didn't understand what she meant. 5. It wasn't until a week later that I was tricked by Grandma Liang into the hotel owned by their family. I was wearing wet clothes and was stuffed with a room card by Grandma Liang. "Go up and wait for a while. Someone will bring you clean clothes later." But when I swiped the card to open the door, entered the room, and turned on the light, I was completely stunned. An unusual smell filled the room. The man's tie was hanging loosely on his shirt, and he was leaning against the head of the bed. Not even looking up, his voice was incredibly hoarse. "Get out." It was Duan Wenye. I immediately realized what the smell was. I turned around and tried to open the door, but it didn't move at all. It was obviously locked from the outside. "What's going on, Grandma Liang?" I said. "Get out. Can't you understand?" The man's voice was already filled with impatience. "Woohoo, I want to get out too." "It's not. I can't open the door anymore." I urgently continued to turn the doorknob and retorted in a low voice. Duan Wenye's breathing paused. Then there were approaching footsteps. "Why are you here?" He pulled my arm and made me face him. Only then did I feel the temperature of his palm, which made me tremble. "Little uncle," I called him obediently, trying to remind him of who I was. Duan Wenye didn't respond. He lowered his eyes and looked at me. "I heard that Liang Sun broke off the engagement with you." I nodded, not knowing why he was asking this now. He seemed to take a step closer to me, and his Adam's apple rolled slightly. "So, you don't like him anymore?" Without realizing it, I had also inhaled a large amount of the gas in the room, and my reaction was a bit slow. Without thinking too much, I just answered slowly, "No, I don't." He smiled indifferently, and his tone didn't seem like he was asking a question. "Is that so?" I slowly raised my head and looked at him helplessly and straightforwardly. The temperature in the air was slowly rising, carrying a trace of restlessness. I felt an indescribable stuffiness. I instinctively searched for a way to relieve it. Mr. Duan. A faint smile appeared on Duan Wenye's lips. He raised his hand and gently rubbed my cheek. "Are you feeling uncomfortable?" I didn't answer. Instead, I stared at his thin lips that were so close. I was wondering if they were as cool as the jelly taken out of the refrigerator. "Answer me." The emotions in Duan Wenye's eyes fluctuated, but the rationality in his words made me seem like the impatient one. I stood on tiptoe and put my arms around his shoulders, but his phone rang inopportune. Duan Wenye clicked his tongue softly and was about to take out the phone and throw it away, but when he saw the caller ID, he stopped and finally answered the phone. "Little uncle, you're back in the country." It was Liang Sun. I regained a bit of my senses. I looked at Duan Wenye blankly, but my action of kissing him stopped. Duan Wenye hummed. With his other hand, he pressed against my lower back, pulling me towards him. The distance between us was narrowed again, and our lips were almost touching. "Then where are you now, little uncle? I'll come to find you." Liang Sun's voice came from the other end of the phone. I panicked for a moment. When I grabbed his shirt, I accidentally bumped into his collarbone. Duan Wenye hissed softly, "Be gentle, okay?" I was dizzy and apologized in a low voice. "I didn't mean to." There was a moment of silence on the other end of the phone. "Little uncle, who are you talking to?" I seemed to have heard this voice before. I stared at him nervously with wide eyes. Duan Wenye hung up the phone with a "your little aunt" and didn't focus on this. I had already lost my senses. All I could think about was the person in front of me. Duan Wenye picked me up and walked further into the room. As he walked, he asked with great interest, "Do you want to do something?" Duan Wenye sat down on the edge of the bed and held me on his lap. I nodded eagerly and tried to lean in and kiss him. Duan Wenye smiled and turned his head away. He pinched my chin to stop my action. "I'm getting old. I can't play the game of taking advantage and then leaving." "Oh, is being 6 years older than me enough to be described as getting old? So, if you don't take responsibility, I will definitely call the police. Do you understand?" I was like someone standing under a plum tree, with a dry throat and lips, and my eyes full of longing as I looked at the sweet plums. Looking at the plums couldn't quench my thirst, unless I was allowed to eat the plums. After I promised him several times, the plum was finally brought to my mouth. I gently kissed him, but because I was inexperienced, I pulled away as soon as our lips touched. Duan Wenye instinctively leaned in to follow, but stopped just before our lips met. "If you won't be able to kiss me anymore." His confident tone faintly carried a hint of coaxing. "Open your mouth and come closer yourself." I put my arms around his neck and leaned in again, but this time, I couldn't escape easily. Instead, I was entangled by him. 6. On this side, Liang Sun hung up the phone and just arrived at the door of his house. He was still thinking about the female voice on the phone just now. It was very familiar. He pushed the door open while deep in thought. Grandma Liang, who was sitting on the sofa and eating an apple, looked at him as if she had seen a ghost. "Ah, a son, why are you here? There are no classes in the department, so I came back to visit you." Grandma Liang then realized something was wrong. She immediately took out her phone to check. She found that the message she sent to Liang Sun had somehow been sent to Duan Wenye. It had been more than an hour now. Grandma Liang's mind went blank. She had originally planned to invite Liang Sun to the hotel, but unexpectedly, she invited, "Please don't try to match me and Yu Xia anymore." Liang Sun was already prepared for Grandma's long speech, but this time, she was uncharacteristically silent for a long time. Then she agreed, "I plan to try to match Xia Xia with your little uncle." Liang Sun's hand paused as he scrolled through his phone. It was hard to describe this feeling. In the few years he was entangled with Yu Xia in his previous life, he had subconsciously regarded her as his fiancée, his possession. Now, upon hearing the news that she might marry someone else, he suddenly felt an indescribable sense of irritability. So, he just casually refused on Yu Xia's behalf. "It won't work. My little uncle doesn't like Yu Xia. And Yu Xia also has someone she likes." Grandma Liang sneered. "You like Song Anren. Why do you care so much? I originally planned to go see Song Anren when you got engaged and tell her the news of your engagement to make her give up completely." Liang Sun was stunned. His phone slipped from his hand. "What did you say?" So, the text message in his previous life really wasn't sent by Yu Xia. 7. What he didn't know was that the little uncle he thought didn't like Yu Xia was now threatening and coaxing me. The Duan Wenye I knew was always a man of few words. I didn't understand the meaning of this series of questions and conversations at this moment. He pried open my hand that was tightly gripping the pillow and interlaced our fingers. Looking down at me from above, he asked, "Who am I?" I tried to avoid answering. He then forced me to look at him. Sweat dripped down from the man's wet black hair on his forehead. His clear eyes were especially sexy at this moment. He slowly asked for my consent. "Do you want to look in the mirror?" I had no choice but to give in. "Duan Wenye, say it again." "Duan Wenye, it's really sad. Why didn't I fall asleep like in the novels? I have to face all this soberly." Fortunately, I was facing away from Duan Wenye and was just about to play dead. "Don't pretend. I know you're not asleep." His disdainful voice shattered the dignity I had painstakingly maintained. "Don't panic." I closed my eyes, determined to keep up the act of being on the verge of death. Duan Wenye sneered softly. "Forget it, let's continue." Then, my ankle was grabbed. I immediately became agitated and opened my eyes. Awake, he looked down at me. Heat gradually crept up to my ears. I pressed my lips together and remained silent. Duan Wenye got up and casually wrapped his bathrobe around him. He walked to the cabinet and turned on his phone. A few seconds later, he turned the screen towards me. Looking at the big 110 on the screen, my blood pressure almost soared. The man had a half smile on his face. "Remember what I told you before? Was he going to sue me for getting services without paying?" Just as I was struggling with how to respond, the door was suddenly banged on. "Yu Xia, I know you're in there. Open the door, I have something to talk to you about." It was Liang Sun. Troubles came one after another. I stared at the door in a panic, and everything was in chaos. Liang Sun was still chattering outside. Duan Wenye's patience ran out. Frowning slightly, he directly opened the door. What's so important that you have to disturb us now? Liang Sun was stunned for 2 seconds. Uncle, why are you here? Didn't Grandma say that Yu Xia is here? At this moment, I was curled up in the quilt, feeling desperate, although I hadn't heard Duan Wenye's reply yet. I had already anticipated the upcoming storm in my heart, until, Uncle, is your girlfriend in there? Liang Sun couldn't help but think of the previous phone call. Most likely Grandma remembered it wrong. I'll go and ask at Yu Xia's house again. Then he smiled knowingly. I won't disturb you and my little aunt anymore. Give my regards to my little aunt for me. I didn't come to my senses until Duan Wenye closed the door again. Was a crisis that seemed almost inevitable resolved by Liang Sun's straightforward and not-so-smart IQ. 9. Out of the corner of my eye, Duan Wenye walked towards me. I quickly picked up my phone, trying to find something to do to prevent him from bringing up what had just happened. What are you doing? I pursed my lips. Buying medicine. Duan Wenye raised his eyes. What kind of medicine? I hesitated for 2 seconds and didn't hide it. Contraceptive pills. A soft laugh came from above my head immediately. His lazy eyebrows and eyes were filled with satisfaction. But the words he said were extremely heartless. Why are you taking them? I secretly clenched the quilt, feeling a bit indignant. Because of you. What about me? Under Duan Wenye's expressionless face, a faint sense of grievance welled up in me for no reason. I stopped arguing with him and lowered my head in silence to continue searching for the medicine. The next second, my phone was snatched away and thrown aside. The man rubbed against the slightly red corner of my eye, and his voice was uncharacteristically low and gentle. Stop fussing. I wore protection. I was stunned and tried hard to recall if there was such a part. Thinking I didn't believe him, Duan Wenye patiently added, every time. He also raised his hand and pointed at the trash can, smiling and asking, otherwise, do you want to count? I didn't really count. But I finally recalled some fragmented memories. With the help of Grandma Liang's special effect fragrance, I seemed like I had never seen a man in my life. Duan Wenye avoided my kiss and coaxed in a low voice, wait a moment. I leaned in again and murmured, I can't wait, Duan Wenye. He took a deep breath. His hand seemed to be reaching for something on the bedside table. I touched his ear again and asked disappointedly, don't you want to kiss me anymore? The rationality in Duan Wenye's eyes was on the verge of collapsing. You can't smell this fragrance anymore. I was confused. After a moment, before he kissed me again, he finally said one more sentence to clear up my confusion. I can't stand it. 10. A series of embarrassing situations had made me numb, so, when Duan Wenye offered to carry me to the bathroom, I only hesitated for a moment. Then I stretched out my hands towards him. Then I'll trouble you. Duan Wenye let out a soft laugh. He let me bury my head in his neck and walked towards the bathroom. Sure, you're welcome. That day, Duan Wenye still asked me again if I wanted to take responsibility for him. He saw my hesitation, but he didn't force me to make a choice again. He just said, your father's company is currently having problems with its capital chain, and Liang Sun has cancelled the engagement. If nothing unexpected happens, he will immediately find a new marriage partner for you. 11. Early the next morning. On the way home, I kept thinking about what Duan Wenye had said. However, when I met Liang Sun downstairs of my home, that matter was temporarily put aside. There was exhaustion from staying up all night in the boy's eyes, and his voice was even colder than the morning mist. Explain, what did you do last night? Not answering your phone and not going home. I averted my gaze. It has nothing to do with you. After coming out of the hotel yesterday afternoon, since I hadn't rested and was too tired to go home and deal with my father, I went to the nearest apartment under my name, but there was no need to explain all this to Liang Sun. When Liang Sun approached, the chill emanating from his clothes became even stronger. Has nothing to do with me. He gave a faint smile. Yu Xia, the cancellation of our engagement hasn't been announced to the public yet. Nominally, I'm still your fiancé. Does your staying out all night really have nothing to do with me? Liang Sun's familiarity in saying this stemmed from the previous life. There was also such a situation in the previous life. During my internship, I accompanied my supervisor on a business trip for a day on short notice and didn't inform anyone. On the third day, I saw Liang Sun's figure downstairs of my apartment. At that time, there were still lipstick marks on his neck that hadn't been wiped clean, but he still angrily questioned me about where I had been staying out all night. The man in front of me overlapped with the image in my memory. I looked at him with a sense of absurdity. You took Song Amran away in public, and that was also before the cancellation of the engagement, wasn't it? Liang Sun stared at me for a long time, unable to hide his annoyance. He coldly curled the corners of his lips. Do you know what I hate most about you? His gaze seemed to be scrutinizing and also seemed to be criticizing. It's your pettiness. Always being so calculating and not hiding your jealous nature at all. Don't you think you're incredibly vulgar, Yu Xia? I was stunned for a moment. I was just stating the facts to refute him, but I didn't expect that in his eyes. I was jealous. Liang Xin shook his head and stepped back to create a safe distance from me. I thought I had misunderstood you. Now it seems that even if you hadn't done that thing, you would still only be jealous and petty. You really can't compare to Anran. Finally, he left me with these words and gave me a disappointed look. Liang Sun, I called out to the person who was turning around to leave. Even if I'm jealous, it's not for you. You're really full of yourself. Don't come and bother me again. If you come to me once, I'll call the police once. After saying that, I walked towards the apartment without looking back. Jealousy and losing one's composure. I had heard these words countless times in the previous life. Liang Sun's attitude towards me changed from fierce accusations at first to casual sarcasm later. Now, after separating all my emotions towards Liang Sun and looking at it from an outsider's perspective, thinking back on all the past events, I realized that I had wasted too much unnecessary time being entangled with Liang Sun. 12. After we parted that day, Liang Sun unilaterally announced the dissolution of the engagement. Duan Wenye was right. The next day, my father couldn't wait to introduce a new marriage partner to me. My initial plan was to meet the person and just go through the motions, but an accident occurred right at the beginning. To be honest, I really like your type. In the restaurant, the blind date partner sitting across from me, the young master of the Don family, started a truth-telling session on his own, but I couldn't join in. Because if I were to be honest now that I couldn't eat anything because of the stench of his feet that couldn't even be covered by his 30,000 yuan shoes, most likely he would get up and leave, then I would be severely scolded by my father. While I was feeling worried and depressed, a familiar voice picked up his words. Who do you like? I instinctively looked up immediately. Duan Wenye had his suit jacket draped over his forearm, the top button of his shirt was casually undone. And he wasn't wearing a tie, looking a bit disheveled. There was a kind of romantic aura cultivated by the feasting and socializing in the business world. He looked at the young master of the Don family with a not-so-friendly smile. Brother Wenye. The young master of the Don family stood up abruptly. What a coincidence. I'm on a blind date. Almost instantly, a burning gaze landed on the top of my head. If I were to convert Duan Wenye's gaze into a real temperature, I felt that I should already be bald from the heat. Would Brother Wenye like to join us for a meal? Seeing that Duan Wenye didn't leave, the young master of the Don family politely asked. Unexpectedly, he really sat down brazenly. You continue with your blind date. Just pretend I'm not here. The young master, he glanced at Duan Wenye and then looked at me, struggling to speak. Overall, I'm quite satisfied with you. But I have a point that I really care about and want to ask you. Duan Wenye picked up the fork and idly played with the broccoli on the plate. I retracted my gaze and nodded at the young master of the Don family. Is your virginity still intact? I let out an ah and asked. What? He smacked his lips and looked a bit embarrassed. You know, the first time. Because I value this very much. Duan Wenye stopped his movements. My hand hanging under the table couldn't help but clench. A sense of discomfort like being overexposed seemed to be overwhelming my breath. Just as I was about to speak, out of the corner of my eye, Duan Wenye's fork was thrown onto the dining table with a not-so-light force. What's wrong? Brother Wenye, is the food not to your taste? I'll order something else for you. Duan Wenye let out a cold laugh. No, I think you're quite interesting. He looked at the young master with an unreadable expression. Someone who sleeps with different women every night. Where do you get the nerve to ask a girl you just met for the first time to remain chaste for you for 20 years? The young master of the Don family blushed from being scolded but still thought he was in the right. Brother Wenye, you don't understand. The Yu family is no different from selling their daughter now. I just think she looks good, so I lowered my standards, to be honest. Even if I ask her to follow the 3 obediences and 4 virtues and take care of the family and the children after marriage, she, Yu Xia, can only comply. I listened in silence. My hand had already reached for the soup in front of me. I thought that in the next second, this bowl of soup would be poured over his head. I had endured it all night and really couldn't stand it anymore. Such an idiot should just get as far away as possible. Duan Wenye seemed to see what I was thinking. The soup in front of me was taken away by him. Duan Wenye placed the soup in front of the young master of the Don family and smiled, raising his hand and pointing. Look at yourself. Can you see what kind of person you are? The next second, he suddenly pressed on the young master of the Don family's neck and pressed his face against the edge of the soup bowl. A trace of overbearing arrogance flashed in Duan Wenye's eyes. She doesn't even like me. Who do you think you are? You're just a down-and-out person who relies on your grandfather's foundation to maintain your dignity, Duan, cough cough. Duan Winya finally let go of the young master of the Dong family, who had choked on 2 mouthfuls of soup. He sat back in his chair and slowly wiped the soup splashes on his hand. Without looking up, he ordered, "Get lost, tell your father to come and explain to me in person tomorrow." It wasn't until that person left that he looked up at me. At that time, I was resting my chin in my hand and looking at him with a smile. The old man let out a rather awkward cold snort. "What are you laughing at? You just slept with me. And on the other hand, you immediately went on a blind date. I haven't even settled the score with you yet." Hearing him mention this, I did feel guilty. 13. Without the stench of the young master of the Dong family's feet, I regained my appetite. I ate and drank a lot of wine. By the time it was time to pay the bill, I was already drunk. "It's okay, Mr. Duan, I'll pay the bill. Let me do it. Let me do it." I brought the traditional virtue of fighting to pay the bill to the extreme. Duan Winya, the waiter, however, had good professional ethics and smiled politely. "No need, miss you, Mr. Duan always charges it to his account." I stopped the action of bringing out my payment code and blinked. Duan Winya didn't give me time to react and walked directly to my side. "Can you still walk on your own?" I thought about it for a moment and let my face become as thick-skinned as possible. "Well, if you carry me, I can." Reluctantly agree. Duan Winya smiled softly. In public, he bent down and picked me up, and then left calmly. The familiar refreshing smell on the man invaded my nostrils after a long time. It instantly swept away the listlessness that I had been feeling after being affected by the young master of the Dong family for nearly an hour. My nose almost touched Duan Winya's collarbone. I couldn't help but get closer and sniff. Duan Winya saw this and said in a flat tone, "Did I forgive you so that you could act coquettishly?" Although he said this, he hugged me tighter. I was drowsy in his arms, until a familiar voice came, "Uncle, why are you with you Xia?" I opened my eyes sleepily from Duan Wenya's neck. Liang Sun was looking at me with a complicated expression, and Song Anren was standing beside him. Duan Wenya glanced at him. "Do I need to report to you who I'm with?" Liang Sun pursed his lips tightly, and his gaze landed on the hand with which Duan Wenya was holding me. "Yu Xia is drunk, right? She's like this, she gets drunk easily after drinking a little. Uncle, I know her, give her to me. Otherwise, she might cause trouble for you when she goes crazy later." Hearing this, I was startled. I opened my eyes wide and looked at Duan Wenya, who showed no sign of letting go, and then at Liang Sun. Our eyes met, and I instinctively blurted out 2 words, "Asshole." Liang Sun. His face suddenly darkened, his act of relying on others' power immediately fell apart, and I hurriedly hugged Duan Wenya's neck tightly. I pleaded in a low voice, "Don't give me to him to carry." Duan Wenya's chest vibrated with laughter. He said the words "let's go" and then took a step and left. 14. When I regained my memory again, it was the next morning. I rubbed my dizzy head and went downstairs while building up my mental strength. I had already prepared to be severely scolded by my father, but seeing my father's unusually kind expression was even scarier than seeing a ghost. "Xia Xia, did you sleep well?" Me? I didn't dare to speak. "Not at all. My daughter is really promising. She's going to marry the most outstanding person in the circle." After thinking for a few seconds, I asked tentatively, "Are you planning to arrange for me to marry that 57-year-old director Wang?" My father forced a smile for a moment. "You're really different when you're with Wenya. Dad thinks you've gone from being stupid to cute." I froze in place. Suddenly, some forgotten fragments flooded into my mind. Last night, Duan Wenya dropped me off at my doorstep. I struggled with the seatbelt. When Duan Wenya leaned over to help me unbuckle it, I suddenly looked up. The corner of my mouth brushed past his lips. Duan Wenya didn't move. His gaze slowly shifted from my eyes down to the area below the tip of my nose, in the confined space. Our slightly heavy breathing only added to the rising atmosphere of intimacy. Just when I thought Duan Wenya was about to do something, he suddenly pressed my chin and pulled back to create some distance. He gave a mocking smile. "I won't give you a second chance to take advantage of me without any commitment." The alcohol had brought out my lustful side. I stared longingly at Duan Wenya's lips and pursed my mouth in disappointment. I still remembered that this old man was quite good at kissing. As if to prevent me from kissing him, on the way into the house, he helped me walk with extreme restraint. My father was surprised to see Duan Wenya, but he quickly put on a smile. I couldn't remember exactly what they said. The only thing I remembered was that Duan Wenya leaned down close to my ear and spoke in a low voice that only the 2 of us could hear. "Agree to marry me, and I'll let you kiss me." As if afraid that I wouldn't agree, he added an incentive, "as much as you want." Did he think I was a fool? The word marriage snapped me back to a momentary state of clarity. Duan Wenya, who had driven away the young master Dong for me tonight, made my heart flutter for a moment. Moreover, it was inevitable that my father would force me into a marriage alliance to gain benefits for himself. In the end, in front of everyone, I agreed to the marriage alliance with Duan Wenye in a completely sober state. Yes, it was a marriage alliance, in my view at that time. Even with a bit of affection as an added condition, it was still a compromise type of marriage in my definition. It was a decision made after weighing the pros and cons. It wasn't until much later, when I witnessed every single thing Duan Wenye did for me as an act of love, that I realized perhaps a little later, or perhaps if I had the right to choose, but the result wouldn't change, generally speaking. Under any pre-conditions, the conclusion remained the same. I would eventually fall in love with Duan Wenye and marry him. 15. Grandma Liang was probably feeling guilty. After that mix-up with the room card, she hadn't contacted me at all. Only after the engagement date between Duan Wenye and me was set did she finally give me a call after a long time. She asked me to come over for lunch. When I arrived, I found that Liang Sun was also there, and Duan Wenye was still on his way back. Grandma Liang came to greet me with some uncoordinated movements. Haha. Xia, you're here. Haha, ha. Looking at her forced smile, I was at a loss for words. When only Liang Sun and I were left in the living room, he frowned and spoke. Did you come here today to discuss the engagement? I nodded, not wanting to say more to him. You Xia, do you think you're being reasonable? There was irritation in the boy's voice. I looked at him in confusion. I admit that I've realized I like you a bit now, but if you team up with the elders to force me into marriage, it will only have the opposite effect. Do you understand? I was too stunned to speak. Liang Sun stood up and dusted off his hoodie, looking down at me. He still had that unapproachable attitude. Forcing me into marriage won't work. If I don't show up at the engagement banquet, it will be you who loses face. I opened my mouth silently and then closed it again. This was the Liang family's place. Would it be inappropriate for me to scold him now? 16. Liang Sun's pride finally crumbled at the dinner table. With the clear sound of chopsticks hitting the ground, Liang Sun's eyes trembled slightly. What did you say? Uncle is engaged to you Xia. He let out a mocking laugh. Don't be ridiculous. They're not even from the same generation. Duan Wenye casually replied with an soon you two won't be of the same generation either. Remember to call her aunt. I was still debating whether to give Liang Sun a kind and tolerant look as an elder when he pushed his bowl away and went back to his room with a dark face. 17. Duan Wenye drank some wine in the evening. As soon as he got in the car, he asked the driver to raise the partition. I immediately became alert. My tentative words was interrupted by Liang Sun, who came running out. Uncle, are you sure you want to marry her? Duan Wenye leaned lazily against the seat and rolled down the car window. Liang Sun looked past him at me. There was a contemptuous smile in his eyes, as if he had already predicted my miserable defeat. Uncle, you might not know that the person you're about to marry used to like me in a very humble way. Duan Wenye bit on a cigarette, lowered his head, and lit it with a lighter. It was hard to tell what he was feeling. For some reason, I couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Liang Sun was very satisfied with my reaction and smiled. His tone was even more leisurely. Yu Xia has a notebook filled with every single thing about her secret crush on me. Uncle, with your status, are you sure you want to marry someone who used to like your nephew, a cheapskate? With every word he said, my hand resting on the seat tightened a little more. After all, Liang Sun was Duan Wenye's nephew. The probability of him siding with me was much lower than the probability of him believing his own nephew, especially when such words were so humiliating. Duan Wenye rested the hand holding the cigarette on the window ledge. He slightly raised his wrist, motioning for me to look at Liang Sun. When Liang Sun and I made eye contact, he smiled confidently. See, Xia, Uncle wants you to get out and come with me. How could he possibly take a liking to you? Duan Wenye ignored him and just asked me. Did you hear everything he said to insult you just now? Not sure what he was up to. I nodded silently. The light in front of me was blocked by a shadow. Duan Wenye leaned in, and the corner of his mouth curled up in a barely noticeable smile. His voice was alluring. Yu Xia, don't be a coward, fight back. I was stunned and looked up at him in disbelief. I'm not just here to stand up for you. At the same time, I also give you enough confidence to do whatever you want. His eyes narrowed slightly, and he raised his eyebrows. Like right now, wouldn't it be more satisfying if you fought back yourself? I was convinced by his words. Somehow, I really leaned closer to the window, but before I spoke, I turned back to Duan Wenye and asked hesitantly, will you really back me up? The man let out an from his nose. I pursed my lips and looked at Liang Sun firmly, my hand resting on the windowsill unconsciously clenched into a fist. After a moment of strange silence go to hell, Liang-sun, the biggest stain on my life is that notebook. Tomorrow, I'll buy a new notebook and write down every curse word for you in it. Liang-sun's expression changed suddenly, as if he hadn't expected Duan Wenye to react this way. He stared at me intently, his face as cold as ice. 18, even after the car had driven for a while. I was still immersed in the relief of the breast being saved. I didn't realize at all that I had leaned all the way over just to scold Liang-sun, and now, I was still kneeling on Duan Wenye's lap, feeling better. There was a hint of cynicism in the man's leisurely smile. This question was very ambiguous. I didn't know if he was asking about how I felt after scolding Liang-sun or about my current position. Just as I was about to climb down calmly, the driver hit the brakes at the wrong time. I fell directly into Duan Wenye's arms. I felt something soft pressing against my lower back, so I reached out to touch it. "Where are you touching?" Duan Wenye caught my hand with a half-smile. Since I was still sitting on his lap, I blurted out without thinking, "I just felt something very soft." It should have been the cigarette case in his pocket. Duan Wenye slowly raised his eyes, and his hand holding mine felt hot. "Are you sure it's what's in your hand?" The car was so dim that there was almost no light. When I looked down at my hand, the passing streetlights cast light on the seat. Everything was laid bare. I almost let out a scream. I withdrew my hand as quickly as possible. I tried to get off Duan Wenye's lap, but he wouldn't let me. He held my waist and pulled me back into his arms. Duan Wenye was settling the score. "You said it was soft." I felt like crying but had no tears. "No, then what was it?" Seeing that Duan Wenye was going to keep pressing this issue, without thinking, I reached out and covered the lower half of his face. "Stop talking, okay?" Instead of pulling my hand away, Duan Wenye held me and changed our position. He made me straddle him. "Do you think this can stop me from talking?" His warm breath tickled my palm, not just my palm, also the tip of my heart. His slightly deep voice came through my fingers. I withdrew my hand and looked at him awkwardly. Duan Wenye looked flirtatious. "Maybe we should find another way to shut me up." The moonlight shone on his eyebrows and eyes, giving him an elegant and clear look like a cedar in a cold stream. My irregular heartbeat easily shattered the disguise of my pretended calmness. I was sure I was seduced by him. When I came to my senses, I had already leaned in, holding onto his shoulders. Our eyes both landed on each other's lips. Until they met, I recalled the entire process of our kiss on that confusing night, but probably because Duan Wenye had been drinking. This time he took the initiative almost immediately. He held my chin with one hand and forcefully pried open my mouth. He adjusted the angle from time to time, or he would let go for a moment, turn his head to the other side, and then kiss me again. In the middle of it, I regained a moment of clarity. I pushed against his shoulders. "The driver, he can't hear us." Duan Wenye cut in, his breathing slightly unsteady, again. Then I was pulled back into the trap of indulgence. 19. In the end, Liang-sun didn't end up with Song Yanran. He told me this news himself. At that time, I was doing group work at Maker Coffee. The chair opposite me was pulled out, and someone sat down. "I heard from Grandma that you and Duan Wenye are planning to get the marriage certificate soon." It was the first time I heard Liang-sun call him by his full name. I looked up at him. The dejection in the boy's eyes couldn't be hidden by all his external advantages. "I once had a dream, Yu Xia." He smiled and shook his head. "In the dream, because of misunderstandings, I did a lot of things that made you sad. The only consolation was that in the dream, you still liked me." He lowered his eyes, and his gentle smile was mixed with bitterness. "It turns out that dreams really are the opposite of reality. In reality, before I've even done anything to you, you already don't like me anymore." I didn't have the energy to argue about these useless things with him. Suddenly remembering something, I took out a ring engraved with the initial of my name from my bag. I was about to return it to Liang-sun. Looking at the ring, he said calmly, "So you've even bought couple rings." It was a simple sentence, but I felt like I didn't understand it. "What?" Liang-sun said. "I saw the same men's ring on Duan Wenye last time. But I never thought the women's ring would be in your hand." I felt as if I was in the deep sea, and the feeling of suffocation completely enveloped me. Liang-sun's words came from far, far away, taking me back to even more distant memories. In my previous life, I vaguely sensed that Liang-sun had fallen in love with Song Yanran. Although I was disappointed, I didn't want to interfere in their relationship. Just as I was planning to find a suitable time to ask Liang-sun about it, I received a gift box that claimed to be from the Liang family. Inside was this very ring. I thought it was a ring from Liang-sun. I never imagined that it was from Duan Wenye. So that night, when Liang-sun came to see me, I jumped into his arms excitedly and confessed boldly, "Liang-sun, I like you so much." Liang-sun didn't push me away. After a long silence, he hugged me back. "I know, what about you?" I looked up from his arms and asked hopefully. Liang Sun pressed me back into his arms. So I couldn't see his expression. I've never said I don't like you, that was his ambiguous answer. The subtlety in it was ignored by my active dopamine at that time. It could be said that without this ring, most likely, my engagement with Liang Sun wouldn't have happened. You xia. Liang Sun's questioning voice brought me back to my senses. I looked at the ring again and then put it on my finger. What did you call me? Liang Sun didn't realize I was setting a trap for him. You xia. I gave him a smile that I hadn't shown for a long time. Remember, you'll have to call me aunt soon. 20. Liang Sun left without saying a word. I nodded in satisfaction at his back. I was sure he wouldn't come back to pester me anymore. I didn't immediately ask Duan Wenye about the ring, but there was indeed a question that I couldn't figure out. Since he was the one who gave the ring, why didn't he say so? I stared at the ring, searching my memory for impressions of Duan Wenye from my previous life. Finally, I remembered that on the day I confessed to Liang Sun, when I looked up from Liang Sun's arms, over his shoulder, I saw a Cullinan facing us, but because it was too dark, before I could see the person in the car clearly, the car started and drove away. It drove into the lonely autumn night. Not long ago, I saw an identical Cullinan in Duan Wenye's garage. I thought, it wasn't that he didn't speak up. He had seen me in love, so he didn't want to try again. 21. It wasn't until the engagement day that Duan Wenye put on the ring. The engagement banquet went smoothly from beginning to end. The only thing that bothered me a bit was the words of a friend I met during my internship. Her husband is 7 or 8 years older than her. She looked at me with a complicated gaze, as if she were someone with experience. Sister, be more tolerant of your husband. As she spoke, she patted me on the shoulder. I looked at her in confusion. I'm giving you a heads up in advance. He's older than you, and he'll get old before you do. You know, what kind of nonsensical statement is this? My little sister simply stopped beating around the bush and whispered to me with a sigh, the older a man gets, the less capable he is. My husband is like that. Just when I'm about to get into the mood, he's already satisfied and lying there. It's even shorter than the time it takes me to read a short story. My husband told me that all men are like this. It was the first time I'd heard about such a thing. Although I was surprised, I still thought about it, realizing it wasn't a small matter. I sincerely asked for advice. Is there a way to fix it? My little sister shook her head and blushed as she said, you can't count on men. I have an electronic partner now. I can send you the link later. You should give it a try. It's definitely more useful than a real person. I'd thought there was some great tonic for the body, but I didn't dwell on it and opened the door to go out. Duan Wenye was standing right at the door. Judging by his appearance, he must have just arrived, so I didn't think much of it. On the night of the engagement, Duan Wenye hardly let me drink any alcohol. He blocked all the people who came to offer a toast. But just when my favorability towards my fiancé had skyrocketed, it plummeted right back down, in Duan Wenye's apartment. He pinned me down on the sofa, his knee also pressed against my leg. He raised his hand and gently patted my cheek. Tell me, what kind of partner is this electronic one? The man's voice, tinged with alcohol, was slightly hoarse and sexy. I immediately realized that he had heard everything. I didn't want to buy it, I retorted in a small voice. I originally just wanted to buy you some tonics in advance. If I had known this sentence would almost cost me half my life, I would have admitted to the electronic product rather than refute him thoughtlessly. Later, I don't know when we moved from the sofa to the bedroom, I buried my face in the pillow. His hand, wearing the same style ring, covered mine. As our fingers intertwined, the rings gently rubbed and collided, but soon, he turned me over. Although I really don't want to use the word gallop at this moment. Duan Wenye is in exactly that state, like electronic products. My throat was almost hoarse from crying. My self-preservation instinct made me shake my head desperately. No, I don't like them. I only like you. At this moment, it was as if a pirate ship had suddenly come to a stop. The state of stillness was a very strange experience. Really, Duan Wenye looked down at me. I felt a little shy. We can't go through with this engagement, I sniffled. Then shakily put my hands on his shoulders and wrapped my arms around his neck. I replied with a sob, really? Duan Wenye, today is the first day I've admitted to myself that I like you. That wasn't entirely accurate. If I traced back, I'd find that I liked him yesterday, a month ago, and there were also moments when my heart fluttered and stages when my favor for him grew, but I only bared my heart today, so I still choose to regard today as the first day I like him. In response, I received a long and somewhat greedy kiss from Duan Wenye. Between breaths, he admitted in a low voice, not for me. A long time ago, the next afternoon, I sat in the study and opened the new diary I had already prepared. I wrote down yesterday's date. Then, somewhat defiantly, I wrote, on the first day of liking Duan Winya, I almost lost half my life. The risk factor is quite high. Today, I plan to reduce my liking for him by 0.1% if he can let me have a good, undisturbed sleep. My liking for him can increase by 10% when a ray of afternoon sunlight moved from the tip of my nameless finger to the tip of my index finger. I finally put down my pen. Before closing the notebook, I thought of something. I turned to the introduction page of the notebook and carefully wrote a few words. Record moments of heart fluttering. Story 2. When the cotton mill was allocating housing, my fiancé tricked me into bed. I awoke with a mix of soreness and joy. He said he wanted to give my spot to Bai Guang, a divorced single mother returning to the city, because she needed it more and I still had him, and we've grown up with Sister Xylan, we need to help her, he insisted, naively. I believed him, until, heavily pregnant, I overheard him confessing his love to Bai Guang. It turned out he married me just so Sister Xylan could settle down in the city. I stumbled into the water in a daze, waking from this nightmare. Jiang Muchuan was sitting by the bed, repeating the same words from my dream, and Sister Xylan has had a tough life. Now that she's back alone with her child, we really should help her. I woke up gasping for breath to hear those words, identical to those in my dream, lingering in the air that was thick with an embarrassing odor. Jiang Muchuan played with my hair, his touch gentle and lingering, but I felt a chill all over. I couldn't stop shivering. Was it a dream? Or a glimpse of a future reality? Why would I dream such a thing? Confused and upset, I dodged Jiang Muchuan's kiss, made up an excuse, and left on shaky legs. Jiang Muchuan didn't stop me. Just before I closed the door, his words floated to me through the chilly autumn air. Don't forget about the housing allocation at the factory this afternoon. I know Anan is the kindest and wouldn't want Sister Xylan to suffer any longer. I wandered the streets in a daze, replaying the events from the dream. After I gave my spot to Zhao Xylan, she and her child moved into a new home quickly, and I found out I was pregnant. I married Jiang Muchuan smoothly, the man I had loved since childhood, carrying a new life within me. I harbored joyful expectations but came home early one day close to delivery, only to have my dreams shattered. Jiang Muchuan was confessing his love to Zhao Xylan in our marital home, saying he had loved her all these years. He said he married me just to provide Zhao Xylan a home. His eyes were red, filled with repressed and insane love, humbly begging Zhao Xylan to let him take care of her and her child. Eventually, they kissed, unable to part, and I, in a daze, heavily pregnant, fell into the water, leading to a fatal accident for both me and my unborn child. Jiang Muchuan and I were neighbors, having grown up together. He would stand up for me against local bullies and covered for me when I stained my clothes during my period, driving me home on his bike. When I was 16, my parents died trying to save Uncle Jiang. To keep the house we lived in, I dropped out of high school and took over my mother's job, becoming Jiang Muchuan's fiancé in the process. Uncle Jiang arranged our marriage without a word from him, no objections, no refusal. I always thought he liked me too, but now, I'm not so sure. Sitting numbly in the cold wind, my heart felt half frozen, yet my mind started to clear. No matter what, the house was what mattered most to me now. It was the slot my mother left me for giving up my education. I couldn't let anyone else have it. I arrived early at the factory's property department meeting room. The door was slightly ajar. Laughter and teasing echoed down the empty corridor from Jiang Muchuan and his friends. Chuan, you finally got the factory's beauty. Huh, keep it down. I just felt bad for her pining over me for so many years, thinking she was being subtle about it, just as Xylan needed a house and we were engaged. I thought, why not just go ahead with it? You have no idea how happy she was when she was with me. Someone asked. So, Chuan, who do you really like now? Would your father peel your skin off if he knew you tricked Feng Nianan into bed? Jiang Muchuan clicked his tongue. Nonsense. I've liked Zhao Xylan since I was young. You all know that, even if she's divorced and has a child, you still like her, of course. If it wasn't for my parents' reluctance to accept her, I wouldn't have married Feng Nianan. If I can't marry the one I love, I might as well marry someone who loves me. At least she's obedient and pleasing to look at. Right, Jiang Muchuan answered decisively. When he talked about me, there was a faint disdain on his face. Others praised him as a rare romantic in the textile factory. They said that Zhao Xylan was lucky to be loved by him, a blessing cultivated over 800 years. And me, lacking self-respect and self-love, I deserved to be played. I stood outside, clutching my palm tightly, daring not to make a sound. Uncle Jiang is the deputy factory manager, and the others inside were all children of department heads. Falling out with them now would do me no favors in getting a house. I tried to calm my breathing, but humiliation and regret surged like a tide. So, the dream was real. My years of affection for Jiang Muchuan were just a joke to him. If it weren't for the house left by my mother, if there wasn't Zhao Xilan, to him, I was just a compromise. My chest heaved violently. Suddenly, a hand as white as jade rested on my shoulder. I turned around. It was Zhao Xilan's smiling face, holding her child. With gratitude and concern, she said, "Nianan, thank you for being willing to give up the house for me. Why do you look so pale? Are you alright?" I stared at her blankly. Jiang Muchuan's sister Xilan, who had suffered a lot in the countryside, was dressed in the latest wool coat and scarf from the state-run store. Her child's bib was worth half a month of my salary. She stood there gracefully, making me, in my work uniform, seem even more rough and disheveled. That's right, someone had said the day she came back, I looked more like the one who had come back from the countryside. But how could I not be disheveled? Jiang Muchuan, to show support for her, borrowed all my fabric coupons and half of my food coupons. These days I've been eating rice porridge and nibbling on pickles. Several times I nearly fainted at my workstation, but he said Xilan and her child needed support, and their stepmother wouldn't give them their fair share. We should save and help them get through this. Nianan, Xilan has had a tough life. She used to be so proud. We can't let others look down on her. Jiang Muchuan said so, but he forgot, or rather didn't care. If it weren't for my parents saving Uncle Jiang, I would be a university student like him, not a high school dropout working shifts in a factory, tirelessly running around for a mere few tens of yuan. I, too, am suffering. I held back the tears in my eyes. I smiled at her. It's nothing. Sister Xilan, just choked by the wind a bit. My tears, they shouldn't be spent here. Their voices carried into the room. Jiang Muchuan hurried out. Seeing it was me and Zhao Xilan, he stiffened for a moment, but quickly, he reached out to embrace me, greeting Zhao Xilan into the room with a normal expression. I laughed sarcastically. He really put on a good show. The group of people waiting to be allocated houses gradually arrived. The head of the housing department, Chief Liu, cleared his throat and began to read the list. When my name was called, Jiang Muchuan interrupted, "Uncle Liu, Nianan and I are about to get married, and I'd like to give my spot to Sister Xilan. Do you think it's okay?" He reassured me by squeezing my palm and gave me a wink. Chief Liu laughed. "Of course, you can." "No." I pulled away forcefully, raising my voice. "Chief, this is my spot, and I'm not giving it away to anyone else." For a moment, the air in the meeting room seemed to freeze. Jiang Muchuan's friends looked at me in disbelief. Zhao Xilan, who had been all smiles, turned pale. Jiang Muchuan suppressed the anger in his voice. "Uncle Liu, there might be some misunderstanding. Let me talk to Nianan again." He tried to pull me to the water room at the end of the hallway. I didn't move. Instead, I stared at the people in the meeting room, tears rolling down my face. My mother started working in the factory at 14 and spent over 20 years there just to get this apartment. I have no parents left. This apartment is the last thing they left for me. And I'm not giving it away to anyone else. The humiliation of being betrayed and played washed over me at that moment. I cried so hard I couldn't breathe, my eyes red as I apologized to Zhao Xilan. "I'm sorry, Sister Xilan. Muchuan said you've had a tough time. I know it hasn't been easy for you, but I really can't give this spot to you." She was at a loss, amidst the surprised or scrutinizing looks from everyone around. She felt so embarrassed she wished she could disappear. I lowered my head to wipe my tears, hiding the coldness in my eyes. My name and the house were now linked together, stamped with the big red seal of the cotton mill. Jiang Muchuan pulled me to apologize to Zhao Xilan. He didn't seem too happy, but still forced a smile to reassure her. "I'm sorry, Sister Xilan. I'll think of another way to help you with the housing and residency." Zhao Xilan also smiled, standing in the wind with her child. Her eyes were slightly red, tears almost falling. She glanced at me with a choked voice. "It's okay, Muchuan. I shouldn't have asked for little sister Anne's apartment. It's my fault. Don't fight over me." The child in her arms started to cry along. She looked at us apologetically and hurriedly left with her child. Her figure was as frail as a fallen leaf in autumn. Jiang Muchuan watched her for a long, long time. With things set in stone, Jiang Muchuan hurried to find a new house for Zhao Xilan. His brows furrowed, his expression somber as he looked at me. "Once I've settled Sister Xilan, I'll come back to settle things with you. But Feng Nianan, I never thought you could be so petty. You've disappointed me so much. You don't need to come to the family dinner tomorrow night." This family dinner was supposed to introduce me to the Jiang family relatives, a small celebration before our wedding. Being banned from attending was nothing short of humiliating. Logically, I should have felt sad and upset. But right now, my mind was full of dreams of the future. I absent-mindedly listened and even nodded. "Okay, it's good that I also need some time to verify the truth of the dream." You, Jiang Muchuan, choked with anger, turned and strode away. I paused for a moment, then walked in the opposite direction. In my dream, after my death, my soul was forced to follow Jiang Muchuan. I watched him marry Zhao Zilan within a year of my death. Now I'm also remarried, don't you dare look down on her. Jiang's parents could hardly be pleased with the situation. He had fallen out with his parents, resigned from the cotton mill, and moved south with Zhao Zilan and their child to make a living. He tenderly cradled Zhao Zilan's face. Zilan, let's start over somewhere where no one knows us. I didn't care about their vows and promises. What really mattered to me was that after they moved south, they coincidentally experienced the nation's economic reform and opening up. Catching the tailwinds of the free market, they started a small business, became individual entrepreneurs. Step by step, they made a fortune, becoming one of those families worth hundreds of thousands. Meanwhile, the state-owned cotton mill, once a guaranteed job with high benefits, was on the decline. They stopped distributing apartments and no longer took in employees' children. There were even layoffs. If all of this was true, I needed to carve out my own path before then. I went to the busiest street nearby. There were quite a few individual vendors, but fearing accusations of speculative trading, I had never dared to get close. Now, taking a closer look, I realized the items were indeed cheaper than those in stores. Not only was the fabric quality good, but there were also many designs and decorations I had never seen before. Seeing me lost in thought, the vendor auntie leaned in mysteriously. Miss, these clothes are all shipped from the south. They're all the latest Hong Kong goods, very fashionable. I picked a few items and casually asked, so, they don't care anymore? The auntie whispered with a smile. The South stopped caring a long time ago. Our policies here will take a while longer. My son has sorted out the procedures in the South. It's just this place left. Now, the officials turn a blind eye as long as you don't overdo it. I visited a few more stalls on different streets. The responses were similar. It seemed that the rumors were mostly true. I returned to the Jiang family's house to pack up my personal belongings that I had brought. Looking around, the air still carried a faint scent. He had whispered many embarrassing words when he sneaked me in here. From the shy heart of a girl a few days ago, to the calm heart of today, waking from the dream seemed to happen in an instant. Fortunately, I didn't bring much. After packing up briefly, I was ready to leave within minutes. The moment I opened the door, I ran into Jiang Muchuan, who was about to bring Zhao Zilan inside. This house was a welfare benefit designated for young cadres by the factory. It seemed that they planned to let her live here. It should have been this way from the start. Why did they have to set their sights on me? Seeing the things in my hand, Jiang Muchuan unconsciously pursed his lips. Zilan, you go in first. I have something to discuss with Anin. Before the door closed, Zhao Zilan's probing gaze swept over me. Then Jiang Muchuan cornered me against the wall, his tone impatient. Feng Yanan, what are you making a fuss about now? I'm not making a fuss, Jiang Muchuan, let's call off our engagement. I quietly looked at him, opening my palm. Inside it was a glossy jade bracelet. You came back just in time. I'm returning this to you. This was the engagement token from back then, and now it was time to return it to its original owner. The winter in Suzhou was very cold. My hand, pulled from my pocket, quickly turned ice cold, but I waited a long time. Jiang Muchuan did not take it. I looked up, puzzled. Why won't you take it? He frowned, a hint of anger in his eyes. Nianin, there's a limit to throwing a tantrum. Don't go overboard. I sighed. Finding Jiang Muchuan difficult to communicate with for the first time, I'm serious. I'm not throwing a tantrum. Didn't you say that one should be magnanimous? Since you brought Sister Zilan home, isn't it better for me to leave voluntarily? I don't understand. Isn't this what he wanted? Jiang Muchuan did not respond. His gaze lowered, staring intently at the palm of my hand. The north wind blew through the open windows. I couldn't stand the cold anymore and withdrew my hand first. Jiang Muchuan's expression softened slightly, but his tone was still icy. Don't threaten me with breaking off our engagement every now and then. You know I don't fall for that. As for me and Sister Zilan, it's not what you think. I know you really want to marry me, but let's wait until I've settled things with Sister Zilan. Okay. I fell silent, realizing it was futile to talk further with Jiang Muchuan. I had nothing more to say to him, whether he wants the bracelet or not. Returning it to Uncle Jiang and Aunt Song is the same. Having realized this, I pushed him aside and was about to leave. Just then, someone came downstairs. In the narrow corridor, Jiang Muchuan watched me. He didn't stop me. Jiang Muchuan leaned back on the couch. His mind was filled with Feng Yan's cold gaze as she left. He was somewhat distracted. Zhao Zilan smiled, handing him a glass of water with gratitude on her face. Xiaochuan. Thank you for lending me your house and helping me with the luggage. Once I find a job, I will definitely pay the rent on time. Sister Zilan is still as gentle and beautiful as I remember. Her woolen coat outlined her graceful figure, completely different from Feng Yanan. who only likes checkered shirts and small floral prints. He remembered last night's madness with some relish. Suddenly, he regretted speaking so harshly just now, with Feng Yan's introverted nature. She was probably hiding in a corner, secretly wiping away tears. That was how she was when her parents died, pretending she was fine, only to be found later, her face pale, crying almost to the point of fainting. After all, she is my wife-to-be. For the sake of a harmonious marital life in the future, I should take her to tomorrow night's family dinner. That's what Jiang Muchuan thought. He lifted his head and drank the water in one gulp, a smile unconsciously forming on his lips. Zhao Xilan's heart skipped a beat, and she gently said, "Remember to apologize to sister-in later. I didn't mean to take her house, just thought since you two are getting married soon, it would be inconvenient for her and you to live together while I have a child." She choked up a bit, her eyes slowly reddening. Hearing his mother's crying, 1-year-old Zhao Zishuan toddled over. Grabbing his mother's skirt with one hand and holding on to Jiang Muchuan with the other, he stumbled and said, "Mommy. Don't cry, Daddy, kiss Mommy." Zhao Xilan blushed deeply, hurriedly picking up the child. "Sorry, he just learned to talk and can't quite distinguish yet." Jiang Muchuan didn't mind much. Instead, he bent down and lovingly looked at Zhao Ziyan. He and his mother looked very alike, both had fair skin and were equally bright. In Jiang Muchuan's youthful dreams, he and Sister Xilan also had such a happy family, although it was no longer possible between them. But that didn't stop Jiang Muchuan from liking the child. He instinctively followed Sister Xilan's cue in his thoughts. Feng Yan'an was somewhat dissatisfied. Such a lovely child, why couldn't she just make things easier? Thinking of how she lost her temper and recklessly spoke of breaking off the engagement, Jiang Muchuan's face gradually darkened. How could she be so thoughtless? In the end, he decided to impose a minor punishment as a stern warning. He wouldn't let Feng Yan'an attend the family banquet, teaching her a lesson that was neither too harsh nor too lenient, to make her understand that when living together as a couple in the future, one cannot always quarrel with their partner over every little thing. When I walked out of the dormitory building, it was already dark. I didn't stop walking, and managed to submit my application for unpaid leave before the factory closed. Since I arrived late, only Sister Lu was left in the office. She had watched me grow up from a young age and was surprised. "Anan, aren't you about to marry Jiang soon? Why are you applying for unpaid leave at this time?" I didn't want Jiang Muchuan to know about my decision to leave, so, taking advantage of the convenience of just having walked in the cold wind, I sniffed, pulling out a forced smile. "Aunt Lu, you must have heard about what happened in the property department this afternoon. I want to leave and head south to seek refuge with distant relatives. Can you keep this a secret for me?" Gossip spread quickly among the older people at the factory like Aunt Lu. She slapped her forehead, suddenly realizing. Her face also showed a bit of indignation on my behalf. "All right, I promise you, I won't tell anyone about this. I used to think Jiang was a college student who wouldn't do such shameless things. Now it seems that all men are the same. If it weren't for your parents, he might not have even gotten into that college." Pa, such an ungrateful wretch. Aunt Lu became more agitated as she spoke. At the height of her emotions, she rolled up her sleeves, wishing she could drag me there and then to trample that scumbag. I couldn't help but smile warmly inside. "Thank you, Aunt Lu. Once I get settled in the South, I'll definitely send local specialties back to you." She puffed up her chest. "Oh, don't be so formal with me. I've always disliked dragging things out." Aunt Lu said that the procedure for unpaid leave would take 7 days. The next morning, I took a bag of fruit and went straight to Zhang's parents' house. Holding the steaming mug of brown sugar water that Zhang's mother handed me, I said, "Uncle, Auntie, I want to call off the engagement." In the misty steam, Zhang's father reacted most strongly, grabbing a wooden stick and intending to drag the unfilial son back from the factory for a beating. "And then, don't worry, as long as your Aunt Song and I are still around, we won't let him bully you." I knew they genuinely cared for me. Jiang Muchuan had been beaten the night before, Uncle Jiang had been harsh, and it was said that today he was limping to work, but I still shook my head. "Uncle, if I marry Jiang Muchuan, we are supposed to spend a lifetime together. There will come a day when you are no longer here. What should I do then? He doesn't like me, and now I don't want to be with him either." Actually, Zhang's parents were well aware that Jiang Muchuan and I were mismatched. He was a rare university graduate among the workers' children, and as the youngest cadre assigned to the factory, his future was promising, whereas I, just a humble textile worker, hadn't even finished high school. How could two people with such different lives and experiences be happy together? Zhang's parents remained silent, offering no answer. I sighed and played my trump card. Uncle, Auntie, I think the spirits of my parents in heaven wouldn't want me to waste my life like this. The matter of my parents was a thorn in all our sides. With a thud, Zhang's father dropped the stick and slumped down, his back visibly bending. Zhang's mother also turned her head away, silently wiping tears. Sorry, it was our family's fault. I returned the jade bracelet to Zhang's mother and finally obtained the document that annulled the engagement, leaving with that light piece of paper. I paused at the door, hesitated, and then turned back, intending to say something. Zhang's mother, who was seeing me off, suddenly brightened up, looking at me with hope, hoping I would change my mind, but I only glanced at her and said, Auntie, please don't tell Jiang Muchuan about the engagement just yet. I don't want him to trouble me again. Alright. After saying that, I stepped over the threshold with a sense of relief. From then on, Jiang Muchuan and I had nothing to do with each other. This time, I refused to end up like in my dreams. I'm heading south to change my fate, to catch the east wind and rise swiftly to great heights. Meanwhile, Jiang Muchuan was distractedly responding to the compliments from his relatives. His gaze kept involuntarily drifting towards the door. The family banquet had started almost half an hour ago. Why hasn't Feng Nianan arrived yet? He had clearly given her the address of the restaurant earlier. Even if he had told her not to come, her legs were her own. If she really wanted to come, would he actually stop her from entering? The banquet hall was bustling with toasts and conversations, yet, he felt inexplicably irritable and slightly unbuttoned his cuff. What was even stranger was, Zhang's father and mother, who adored Feng Nianan, hadn't mentioned her even once tonight. They didn't even bring up the theme of tonight's banquet, which was supposed to be about their engagement. They only mentioned celebrating his return to his hometown with a job after graduating from university, inviting everyone to gather. It was too odd. Shouldn't they be furious, forcing him to apologize to Feng Nianan? Unable to hold back, Jiang Muchuan pulled his mother aside and whispered, Why hasn't Nianan arrived yet? Should I go pick her up? His mother's eyes held the familiar look of reproach and disappointment. Unexpectedly, Zhang's mother said nothing. She just glanced at him indifferently and returned to her seat at the banquet. Jiang Muchuan didn't like this feeling of being out of control. He left the restaurant without a word, his long legs bent slightly as he leaned against the wall outside and lit a cigarette. In the swirling smoke, his expression was frosty. He couldn't understand what kind of game his parents and Feng Nianan were playing. Suddenly, a gentle female voice interrupted his thoughts. Xiao Chuan, what are you doing here? He looked up. There was Zhao Xilan, holding a child, looking at him with surprise. I just came back and couldn't find the nearby wholesale market. Can you help me find my way? Without hesitation, Jiang Muchuan put out his cigarette and walked briskly towards his sister Xilan. Of course, I can. Aunt Lu patted her chest, assuring me that she would handle the leave of absence process for me. She even thoughtfully arranged a 7-day leave for me to rest properly, with Uncle Zhang's tacit approval. The matter was well concealed. Jiang Muchuan hadn't heard a thing. I slept for a whole day and night at home, and when I opened my eyes, I felt refreshed. Soon, very soon, I would leave this place, to start my new life. I yawned, ready to go back to sleep. Suddenly, something flashed through my mind. Remembering the child in my dream who had never been born, my expression changed dramatically. My gaze slowly dropped to my flat belly. I sprang from the bed, wrapped myself up tightly, and headed to the black market, hoping everything was still in time. After my parents' deaths, I became an orphan, sitting alone in the room. I had so often wished there was someone connected to me by blood, so I wouldn't feel so alone. In my dreams, I feel immense love for this child, but now, I cannot bring him into this world. It wouldn't be right to carelessly bring him into such instability. Life is uncertain, and my father does not look forward to this. I will have children, but definitely not now. And the father of the child cannot be such a scoundrel. I gently stroke my belly and silently apologize in my heart. Next time, could you come to mommy's belly again? The black market was bustling, everyone dressed tightly and inconspicuously, and my attire did not stand out. After much inquiry, I found a vendor in the most secluded corner. He was a man wearing a hood and a mask, anxious. I approached him without hesitation and asked, Do you have that kind of medicine? The man looked up, revealing slightly upturned dark eyes. What medicine? His eyes were actually quite striking. A strange thought flashed through my mind. Ignoring my embarrassment, I got straight to the point in a low voice. Abortion pills. He glanced at me a few times, then lowered his head, searching for something. When was the last time you were intimate? Why is he asking this? I was taken aback and hesitated. 3 days ago. He seemed to chuckle bitterly, stopped what he was doing, and there was a hint of helplessness in his voice. Young lady, what you really need now isn't an abortion, but contraception. Take this. It's levonorgestrel from overseas, effective for 72 hours, just take it orally when you get back. There might be some side effects like nausea and vomiting, but that's normal, don't worry. If I had been able to complete my first year of high school, I would have taken a course called health education. Then I would have realized what a foolish mistake I made today. Unfortunately, I hadn't, and I could only silently take the packet of pills. Hearing the price the man quoted made me gasp in shock. It was almost 2 months of my salary. Seeing my confused face, he sighed again. Stretch out your hand. Let me have a look. I looked at him warily. What for? To take your pulse. I still didn't trust him, worried that he might be a charlatan preying on the gullible. But this was the black market. I dared not make a scene. After thinking it over, I hesitantly stretched out my hand. He placed 2 fingers on my wrist. After a moment, he withdrew his hand, and his deep voice came through the black fabric mask. You should be fine. No need to take the medicine, really. Just as I was about to argue, I suddenly heard a familiar voice. Jiang Muchuan was leading Zhao Zilan, shopping at a stall. The crowd was bustling, and he held Zhao Zilan tightly by the waist, protecting her in his arms, even though there was a distance between us. Yet, he seemed to sense something, turned his head, and looked in my direction. The moment our eyes met, my heart skipped a beat, and I instinctively looked for a place to hide. If Jiang Muchuan found out I was getting contraception, who knows what trouble it could lead to. The stall owner noticed my discomfort and followed my gaze, then opened his arms to me. Come here, hide. His face was generous, with a look that said, if you hug me, you're making a big profit. I glared at him and moved behind him, using him as a shield. Unexpectedly, he turned around, dissatisfied. Hey, you. I sharply stepped on the man's foot. Shut up. He grimaced and inhaled sharply. His voice obediently quieted down. Muttering discontentedly under his breath, what kind of person? Jiang Muchuan thought he must be seeing things. Otherwise, why would he see someone who looked a lot like Feng Yan'an in the black market, even wearing the same black cotton-padded jacket that Feng Yan'an often wore? But he quickly diverted his attention, focusing on helping Zhao Zilan pick items, laughing at himself, thinking he must be going mad. Feng Yan'an, that honest and upright woman, wouldn't dare to venture into the black market. Nor would she be pulling and tugging with a man. Her secret crush on him for many years was no secret. I kept half a meter's distance from the man. From behind, his head was just at my neck, resembling the closeness of intimate lovers. Jiang Muchuan glanced a few times and then looked away, considerately carrying the things Zhao Zilan had bought. They left. I breathed a sigh of relief. Thank you. The man waved his hand, about to take back the medicine. But I quickly snatched it. Before leaving, I looked at his washed-out sleeve cuffs and silently gave him an extra 5 yuan, not much, just a token of appreciation. In the end, I went ahead and bought that contraceptive pill. Hiding beneath him, through a gap in the collar of his coat, I saw a familiar white lab coat and a metal name tag that read Ordinary Physician at Xiqing Second Hospital, Song Yiming. I took the pill as soon as I got home, lying in bed as the doctor advised. Cautious of any potential side effects, however, the anticipated discomfort never came. Instead, I felt unusually drowsy and fell into a deep sleep, dreaming. In the dream, a delicate little girl ran towards me, laughing, and hugged my legs tightly. Mommy, mommy, my name is Enine, remember me? I'll come to find you again. When I awoke, my face was wet with tears. Enine, wait for me. With 3 days left until the paperwork was completed, I bought a train ticket to head south to Yueqing during this time and stayed home to pack my things. Having done all this, I gazed at the small courtyard where I had lived for over 20 years, feeling somewhat melancholic. Every plant, every brick, and every tile here held memories of my parents and me. My father used to push me on a swing by the loofah trellis in the corner of the yard. My mother would bring out a plate of watermelon on summer nights and count the stars with me in her arms. I gently touched the yellowing wooden door. If possible, I truly didn't want to leave, but I knew it wasn't practical. In a few years, policies allowing workers to buy their homes would be implemented. I told myself that this brief separation was to ensure a better reunion. I needed to work hard to earn money, so one day I could buy this courtyard and make it wholly my own. The next day, I went to the factory to ask Uncle Jiang for a letter of introduction. In just a few days, he seemed to have aged considerably, his temples noticeably grayer. I couldn't bear it. Uncle, you must also take care of yourself. I knew that besides being worried about me, he was even more concerned about Jiang Muchuan. These days, he was almost constantly with Zhao Zilan, busily helping her with arrangements, even trying to use his influence to secure her a clerical job at the cotton mill. Of course, Uncle Jiang put a stop to that, but rumors had already spread throughout the factory. Even in these past few days at the courtyard, I could hear the neighbors whispering, the vice director's family is really pitiful, oh, their son, so obsessed with a divorcee, trying to use connections to get her a desk job in the factory, without inheriting any of the good qualities of his upright father. Indeed, Uncle Jiang had led a life of integrity. The most unorthodox thing he ever did was try to get me an office job, which I refused. I didn't want to exchange my parents' death for that, and I didn't want to put Uncle Jiang in a difficult position. Now, on the brink of retirement, his own son had tarnished his reputation. I advised him, Uncle, children have their own fortunes. Jiang Muchuan and I are grown up. We'll face the consequences of our choices, which have nothing to do with you or Aunt Song. He sighed and nodded, then couldn't help but ask, Anan, are you really not considering staying? Even if we're not one family, staying in Xicheng, your Aunt Song and I could at least look after you. How can we be at ease with you leaving alone? I gently shook my head, smiling. I really can't, Uncle. I've grown up and want to venture out and see the world. Didn't a great man once say that women can hold up half the sky? In the vast world, I believed that I had great potential. Uncle Jiang couldn't resist my persistence and wrote me a letter of introduction, along with the letter. He also gave me a landline number, and this number belongs to the director of U City Textile Factory No. 2. I'm quite acquainted with him. If you ever find it difficult over there, feel free to reach out to him. I was momentarily stunned, my eyes welled up with tears, and I sincerely thanked him, Uncle Jiang, thank you. Then, without hesitation, I turned and left. I was planning to go to the second floor and inquire about Aunt Lu about the progress of my unpaid leave. Unexpectedly, just as I reached the staircase, I ran straight into Jiang Muchuan waiting there. He stared at me, and can we talk? I felt it was an ominous suggestion. At this point, I didn't think there was anything left to say between us. I stepped back silently, refusing him without a word. His expression darkened, just like a few days ago. He cornered me against the wall once more. He glanced towards Uncle Jiang's office upstairs and hissed through clenched teeth, Feng Yanan, did you go complaining to my dad again? If you have something to say, why hide from me? Why are you still upset after all these days? It's been almost a week. You should calm down by now. He moved closer, the stench of alcohol and smoke repulsive. I frowned, struggling continuously, and said calmly, let me go, ignoring everything. After seeing the redness at the corner of my eyes, he suddenly reached out and touched it. His tone was puzzled. You cried. Jiang Muchuan's grip loosened a bit. Sorry, I didn't mean to upset you. Why can't you be more understanding? Always jealous of Sister Xylan. I'm already your fiancé. Ah, I suddenly need him hard. Jiang Muchuan doubled over in pain, curling up on the ground, and then, he reached out to me in vain. Expressionless, I stepped over him and left. Ignoring the unpleasant episode, Aunt Lu gave me some good news. Your paperwork came through early. The documents will arrive tomorrow. Overjoyed, I gave her a big hug. Thank you, Aunt Lu. If it hadn't been for her diligent assistance these past few days, the process wouldn't have been expedited. Tears welled up in her eyes as she patted my shoulder. And then, take care of yourself from now on. Our cotton mill will always be your home. I returned home with a grateful and joyful heart. Thinking of Jiang Muchuan's odd behavior today, I quickly packed my things and went to the guest house. I also changed my train ticket to tomorrow. As soon as the unpaid leave was processed, I planned to leave, to avoid further complications. Unfortunately, the next day, I was cornered again by Jiang Muchuan at the factory. He was somewhat abject, clutching at me. And then, where did you go? I went to your house last night, and you weren't there. Did someone deceive you? Tell me, please. The person who treated me like trash and deceived me was him, and now, he was the one worried that others might deceive me. Honestly, I didn't quite understand Jiang Muchuan's thinking. Fortunately, I didn't need to understand it. Xiaochuan, Zixuan is sick. Can you help me take him to the clinic? Zhao Xilan's voice, tinged with tears, echoed in the empty hallway. Jiang Muchuan's hand on me stiffened, and then without hesitation, he pulled away. And then, wait for me. I'll come find you tonight. Once again, Jiang Muchuan chose Zhao Xilan over me, but I wasn't upset at all. Instead, I sighed in relief, facing Zhao Xilan's complex gaze. I even managed a sincere smile. Wusong said, hurry, take him away. Yes, I knew Jiang Muchuan wouldn't let things go easily, so I made a special trip to see Zhao Xilan last night. I told her about my plans to visit the factory today and my intention to leave. Sister Xilan has always been smart. See, here she is now, with just a simple suitcase. I bid farewell to my hometown of over 20 years and boarded the train to Yuicheng alone. The scenery outside the window flashed by rapidly, the barren trees transformed into lush greenery. Stepping out of the carriage, I was greeted by a warm gust of air. Here, I would start a brand new life. Life away from home was not easy. Yueching's open policies allowed individuals to rent houses. To save money, I rented a small room in a tube building during the damp season. Clothes hung in the corridor would sometimes take half a month to dry, not to mention the rats as big as my face during the scorching summer, and the flying cockroaches with twin ponytails. Often, I would wake from nightmares to find myself staring into the eyes of a huge rat, followed by a series of chaotic screams. Armed with a purple plastic slipper, I would drive the intruders out of my territory. Life had its hardships, but it also had its sweet moments. It's no exaggeration to say that the clothing styles and patterns from Hong Kong and Macau here were way ahead of those in Suching. Even I, a textile worker, was dazzled by the variety. And then there were the ubiquitous talent markets, private business owners, independently hired workers. Everything was brimming with vitality. It was as if the city was embracing and welcoming every hardworking individual. I quickly found a job in a garment factory that matched my skills. The boss lady visited Hong Kong every fortnight, bringing back the latest popular designs. We, the workers, would then copy the patterns, select the materials, make the clothes, and sell them, adorned with a full set of gold jewelry and delicate curly hair. The boss lady worked tirelessly with us day and night at the sewing machines. She said, "Ladies, policies can change at any time, and we don't know how long we'll be able to keep this job. Let's make money while we can, okay?" Everyone called her Sister Jeanne. It was said she too had come from a humble background in a small fishing village. She was an orphan, her parents having died early, until something called a special zone suddenly appeared and took over her family's land. That was when the wheels of fate began to turn. Sister Jeanne was generous with our wages and even shared a small portion of the profits with us. She said, "If you ladies are working hard for me, naturally, I can't let you down, can I?" The first month I received my salary. It was nearly 10 times what I earned at the cotton factory. My heart was pounding with excitement. Who would argue with money? In response to Sister Jeanne, the sewing machines buzzed and clicked incessantly. After 6 months of work, I had saved an amount I wouldn't even dare dream of back in Suching. Can you believe I was already halfway to becoming a 10,000-aire? But that still wasn't enough. Thinking of Jiang Muchuan's $100,000 stunt in my dreams, I felt a strange sense of competition ignite within me. If he could do it, why couldn't I? Remember, before dropping out of school, Jiang Muchuan was always second best, while I consistently topped the rankings. In terms of intelligence and capability, I, Feng Nianan, am second to none. Recently, Sister Jeanne has been a bit troubled. She's been trying to transition. We've been making clothes for the regular market, while importing higher-end clothes from Hong Kong for a more affluent clientele. She had everything arranged with a partner in Hong Kong, but suddenly, they switched to a Chinese American who had studied in the U.S. She kept muttering some ABC gibberish back and forth, and Sister Jeanne couldn't understand a thing. She playfully complained to us, "What should I do, ladies? Should I hire a translator? That's going to be expensive." Thank goodness for Uncle Jiang. After Jiang Muchuan's college entrance exams during the summer, he heard that fluent English would be advantageous in university. He specially hired an English teacher from Sudai University to tutor Jiang Muchuan at home, and I was also included, supposedly to supervise Jiang Muchuan, after several months of attending these sessions alongside my job. Well, let's just say, basic verbal communication is no problem for me. I boldly recommended myself to Sister Jeanne. Her eyes lit up, and decisively, she took me with her to the port city. The cityscape was packed with towering skyscrapers and bustling central streets. Everything was so overwhelming. I felt like Granny Lou entering the Grand View Garden for the first time. Before entering the meeting room, I was so nervous that my palms were sweating. I held a book of clothing terminology that I had specifically bought from a bookstore, reciting it over and over, but Sister Jeanne, casually leaning against the wall with a slim cigarette, reassured me, "Relax, Annie, if it comes to it, we can just hire a translator. We're just giving this a try. Don't feel too pressured." Annie is the English name I chose for myself. I also picked out the name Jennifer for Sister Jeanne. It's simple and memorable, and she likes it a lot. I nodded. But then I noticed Jennifer's other hand, hidden behind her, was also trembling slightly. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Embarrassed, Sister Jeanne playfully scolded me. "After all, I've invested half of my fortune in this. Isn't it normal to be nervous?" "Absolutely, you're right, Sister Jeanne." The little incident outside the meeting room eased my nerves. The anticipated flood of arcane jargon never came. Our counterpart was an elegant woman named Sophia. With curly hair and dressed in a red gown, I was so struck by her beauty that I nearly tripped as I entered the door. Staring at her in awe, It was only when she tapped lightly on the glass table that I snapped back to reality and got down to business. Instead of using complex jargon, she focused on asking about the sales of their clothing in U City, the patterns and materials that were popular with mainland customers, and the usual pricing and logistics, Sister Jean answered, and I translated. Despite some stumbles, we eventually closed the deal. It turns out, a small textile worker like me, with a fine craft and some additional skills, can sit at a negotiation table with highly capable people, just like the newspapers say, and hold her own confidently. Before we left, Sophia gifted us a model of the port city's iconic tram, which made a ringing sound when moved. In return, Sister Jeanne and I gave her Suzhou's famous embroidered silk and the popular snow cream from the mainland. The business went unexpectedly smoothly. With a grand gesture, Sister Jeanne whisked me onto an expensive return flight. On the way there, we had taken a boat, which cost 93 yuan per ticket, a price I already thought was astronomical. I had been seasick during the journey, and Sister Jeanne teased me for being a landlubber. Unexpectedly, our return trip was on a plane ticket costing 270 yuan each. From the airplane window, looking down at the world below, all troubles seemed trivial and easily manageable. I absolutely loved this feeling of freedom. On New Year's Eve, amid the intermittent sounds of firecrackers, we watched the first ever Spring Festival gala on a black and white TV that Sister Jeanne had splurged on. We enjoyed a Huang Mei opera sketch titled Eating Chicken and the ethereal singing of Artistly. Sister Jeanne, unable to get through on the phone to request a song, was sulky for a while, but then, captivated by the soul-stirring song Nostalgia, she squeezed past us to sit in front of the TV, completely engrossed. Having been away for a year, I started to miss home. I couldn't help running out to make a call to Suzhou, even just to check on everyone's well-being. I called the local store at the end of the alley and asked the owner to summon Auntie Song. "Annie, is that you? How are you doing over there?" Hearing that I was doing well, Auntie Song's voice choked up, and she couldn't help but complain. "You child, why didn't you call to let us know you were settled? Your Uncle Jiang and I have been worried for a long time." Through the winding phone line, I could almost see Auntie Song's eyes brimming with tears. In the end, I promised to call home every month. After calming her down by providing my current address, life swiftly returned to its hectic pace after the Spring Festival. Gradually, I helped Sister Jeanne secure a few more business deals. Impressed by my ability to learn, she sent me to night school for adults. During a celebration, she got me drunk with beer and learned about my past in Sioux City. Not sure what she thought of me, perhaps some pitiful soul. She even offered to cover the cost of my night school. Despite my repeated refusals, I couldn't persuade her otherwise. In the end, she paid half, and I paid the other half. She playfully tapped my nose, saying, "What do you know? I call this an investment. If you bail on me after finishing night school, you'll see what I'll do to you." I just laughed foolishly, hugging her arm like an idiot. The garment export business was booming. We were importing not just from Hong City, but Sophia also took a liking to our exquisite silk and embroidery, as well as the affordable labor. With great foresight, she placed a bulk order for mainland clothing at an irresistible price. Sister Jeanne and I worried, will there really be a market? Sophia gently touched the soft silk, reassuring us, don't worry, ordinary clothes go to Southeast Asia, silk goes to the luxury market. With your beautiful, affordable, high-quality products, I stand to make a profit. Gradually, Sister Jeanne began to delegate her responsibilities to the capable staff who had been with her from the start. Naturally, I took charge of the foreign trade aspect, mainly liaising with Sophia and exploring new markets. We, the small business owners, were extremely busy. Sister Jeanne, forgetting old friends for new, fell for a guy named Chong, a secondary dealer. Wow, with his 8-pack abs, wheat-colored skin, and rugged looks, Sister Jeanne, the little rich woman, was visibly excited. In less than 3 months, she had him wrapped around her finger. Completely tamed, she occasionally called him to the factory to help us with lifting, drawing envious glares, flipping her hair. She'd casually say, "Raise." And no one would spare Chun another glance, almost wishing to kneel under her red dress and cling to her legs, crying for her affection amid cheers. Sister Jeanne nudged my shoulder. "Pretty girl, don't you want to find someone too? I have plenty of good prospects, teachers, doctors, all suited for a good girl like you. We've got the money and the looks. Now's the best time to find love." I couldn't help but twitch my mouth. Astonished, she'd turned matchmaker, pushing her away gently. I rolled my eyes. "Sister Jeanne, when do I have the time? It's true we have money and looks, but I'm not free. I can't afford to waste time on anything else." Sister Jeanne chuckled and handed me a restaurant address. "I don't care. I'm giving you Friday night off. With pay, go if you want, or don't. There are plenty of men, I can find someone even better for you. Yeah, she sounded even more like a matchmaker. I took the note. Of course, I didn't go. Lately, I've been receiving letters from Sioux City. Uncle Jiang and Auntie Song sent me money every month, which I saved without touching. Jiang Muchuan also wrote to me, but I didn't read his letters, burning them instead. However, one day, I received a letter from Zhao Xilan. In it, she wrote that she had aborted Jiang Muchuan's child because he refused to marry her. She somehow thought I was to blame and wanted me to talk to him, skeptical. But recalling Auntie Song's choked voice and Uncle Jiang's graying temples, I couldn't help but write a brief letter to Jiang Muchuan. I said, Uncle and Auntie are getting old. Jiang Muchuan, you're their only support. It's time to grow up. In the following 2 months, I didn't receive a single letter. I realized love is a terrifying thing. I lost myself to it before. And now there's the messy entanglement between Jiang Muchuan and Zhao Xilan. I need to keep my distance from love. Using paid leave to meet potential partners seems like a waste, doesn't it? I slept until noon for the first time in ages, then got myself together and hit the streets. Delicious food, beautiful people, scenic views. I lingered endlessly on the bustling commercial streets downtown. Accidentally, I spent nearly half a month's salary. At the same time, I felt my murky spirit become clear. Joy radiated through my entire being, carrying bags big and small. I was just turning into an alley when I saw a pregnant woman leaning against a wall, crying out, "Help me, my water broke." I felt dizzy, ran out of the alley, and called for help. Someone immediately dialed the nearest hospital. A kind-hearted cyclist quickly borrowed a flatbed cart and panting, rushed the pregnant woman to the hospital. We were breathless and collapsed in the hospital corridor. I lost one of my shoes, and my meticulous makeup was smeared all over. The cyclist, too, was a mess. Stained all over his face and body. The pregnant woman's family rushed over and couldn't stop thanking us. We exchanged smiles, waved, and left. Exiting the hospital, I was so overwhelmed with joy that I sprained my ankle. The cyclist, pushing the borrowed cart, stopped in front of me. He made a familiar eyebrow-raising gesture. Come on, I have to return this anyway. I'll see my good deed through and help you out. After returning the cart, the cyclist also took me and my bags on his bike to my apartment building. To my surprise, Sister Zhen and Brother Cheng were waiting there. Seeing my sorry state, Sister Zhen rushed up to me. Good heavens, Anan, how did you end up like this? She glared menacingly at the cyclist. Song Yiming, is this how you date? Swelling up a pretty woman's foot, that name sounded so familiar. Such a melodramatic turn of events. The cyclist and I stared at each other, eyes wide. The next weekend, I took my paid leave, and awkwardly dined with Song Yiming at a restaurant. How awkward. The doctor who I thought had given me abortion pills turned out to be my blind date. What was I supposed to do? Song Yiming coughed lightly, his eyes darting around. It wasn't abortion pills, it was birth control. Turns out I had accidentally voiced my thoughts, and clearly, Song Yiming remembered me too. Even more awkward. I'd rather go back to unpaid overtime than endure this torment. We finished the meal quickly. Song Yiming waved goodbye. See you, I thought to myself, hopefully never again. But before I could even complete the thought, Jiang Muchuan appeared out of nowhere. He still liked grabbing my wrist, and then, I finally found you. Thinking he was a thug, I instinctively slapped him. Only then did I recognize Jiang Muchuan's face. He had gotten a lot uglier in the 2 years we hadn't seen each other. His beard unkempt, his eyes bloodshot. His once handsome face now covered with a layer of grime. That's why I didn't recognize him at first glance. Jiang Muchuan said he wanted to rekindle our past, realizing only later that he truly loved me, not Xilan. He was simply a youthful infatuation. I had no idea what kind of nonsense he was spouting. It infuriated me, yet amidst the crowd, I didn't want to make a scene by arguing with him. So I blurted out, "You're too late, I'm already in love." Jiang Muchuan's eyes were bloodshot as he protested. "I don't believe it, and then, I know I was wrong. Please come back to Suzhou with me." While we were caught up in the dispute, a hand suddenly reached out. It grabbed Jiang Muchuan's wrist and deftly twisted it back. There was a snap. Jiang Muchuan covered his hand and wailed in pain. Song Yiming looked on coldly and said, "Can't you see she doesn't want to bother with you? Also, I'm her boyfriend. So if you have anything to say, talk to me." Jiang Muchuan looked utterly shattered. And then, "Is it true what he said?" I nodded, "Yes, so please stop disturbing my life. Uncle Jiang is about to retire too. He can't handle the stress. If you still consider them your parents, you should go home early." A few days ago, Aunt Song suddenly called me to say that Jiang Muchuan had a falling out with them and ran away from home. I didn't take it to heart, only to find out he had come looking for me. It was absurd. Jiang Muchuan was persistent and followed me and Song Yiming around for many days. Song Yiming and I had no choice but to pretend to be a couple and started going out together. During this time, we inevitably talked. Gradually, we got to know each other better. I learned that he had turned to the black market to raise money for his critically ill mother. In the end, he couldn't save her and didn't want to stay in that sorrowful place, so he moved down to the city of Guangdong. Our life stories strangely resonated. I began to empathize more with him, and seeing him no longer felt awkward. Instead, we became good friends. I discovered that we both cherished freedom and dared to dream and act boldly. Finally, one evening, Song Yiming and I sat by the shimmering riverside, under the afterglow of the sunset. We couldn't help but exchange a tender kiss. From the corner of my eye, I saw Jiang Muchuan stumbling away, but someone discontentedly jerked his head back, and in focus. Jealousy and pettiness flickered in his eyes. It was the first time I'd seen him like this, and I burst into laughter. Song Yiming's face turned red with my laughter, his hands gripping mine tightly. Through gritted teeth, he warned, "Feng Yanan, I don't care about your past, but if you ever dare to lead me on and then leave me, I will. What will you do?" I raised an eyebrow, intrigued, looking at him. "We haven't even defined our relationship, and you're already this jealous. How will you manage later?" I stood up lightly and began pacing along the shore, hands behind my back. Song Yiming caught up, grabbed my waist, and lifted me, spinning around. "I don't care. I belong to you now. You can't be heartless." Our laughter echoed, startling flocks of birds into flight. I kissed Song Yiming on the cheek. I couldn't help but reflect. Some people, being friends and being lovers, it's really not the same. A good lover resonates with you, chasing the light together. A bad lover, however, drags you into the abyss, losing yourself. I am grateful to have escaped the abyss and am now embracing the sun. From Jiang Muchuan's perspective, that day under the sunset, when Jiang Muchuan saw the sweet smile on Feng Yanan's lips, it was like a wake-up call. He had been lying to himself, thinking that the man was just a cover Feng Yanan used. Anan was just angry with him, so she did this. He pondered a lot later and realized indeed he had gone too far. Anan was supposed to be his fiancée, yet, for someone else, he had repeatedly made her sad. But now, he could no longer deceive himself. No one knew better than him the look in Feng Yanan's eyes when she was in love, like a deep, still lake, silently encompassing everything. No, it was still different. At least he had never made her laugh so openly. Jiang Muchuan returned to Suzhou and married Zhao Zilan. Every month, he would take a train to Yueqing. He would spend the entire day at the tea house next to Feng Yanan's clothing store. Zhao Zilan had argued with him more than once, but he tilted his head and said, "Sister Zilan, haven't you already settled down in the city and started a family? How can you still expect me to provide love for Anan?" His relationship with Zhao Zilan had a negative impact, ultimately affecting his career prospects. Over the years, his university peers had been promoted and received pay raises, yet he remained in the same position as he was years ago, unmoved. He harbored some resentment towards Zhao Zilan. For him, only seeing Feng Yanan could bring a moment of peace to his soul, but when he visited the tea house again, he did not see that familiar figure. Upon inquiring, he learned the news. Feng Yanan had moved back to Susi with her husband and child to buy a house. He rushed back to Susi, eager to offer his help with the paperwork and procedures, but when he arrived at the Feng family's courtyard, dusty and weary, he saw the person he had longed for, nestled in Song Yiming's arms, sharing childhood memories. In their arms was a delicate little girl, their 2-year-old daughter, Song Yining. Story 2. When my parents decided to adopt Deng Yangyang, I quickly moved out of the house. "I've cleared the space. From now on, she is your real daughter. We'll meet again if fate allows." Being the cannon fodder in a family favorite story, I decided to give up in this life. If Deng Yangyang wants my parents, she can have them. If she wants my brother, take him. If she wants my childhood friend, he's all hers for free. Oh well, that surely caught them off guard. 1. On the day Deng Yangyang married my childhood friend, I died, my soul hovering in midair. I arrived at their wedding venue. The banquet was set in a 5-star hotel, lavishly and dreamily decorated. I must admit, my parents really spared no expense for her. Amidst a relaxed and joyful atmosphere, I saw my biological parents and brother, one by one, going on stage to offer warm and touching blessings to the newlyweds. They chatted, took photos, and drank toasts together, until my brother, Gu Yizhou, received a call from the police station. 2 minutes later, with an expressionless face, he simply said, "I see," and then hung up. "Brother, who was that on the phone? Dang Yang, in her pure white, dreamy, and beautiful wedding dress, spoke with a hint of coquetry. It's no one. Gu Yizhou shook his head gently, adoringly looking at her. To not spoil Dang Yang's mood, he even hid the news of my death from her. Actually, it was entirely unnecessary, because just before I died, Dang Yang had called me. It was she who had signaled her crazy admirer to stab me to death. How could this bitch not know that I was already dead? Dang Yang looked up at Gu Yizhou with a radiant and joyful smile. Thank you, brother. And thank you to mom and dad for everything you've done for me. I truly love you all so much. Fuck, even as a ghost, I couldn't help but curse. Dang Yang was always good at saying these cheesy, useless pleasantries. After all, it cost her nothing, and it kept these fools utterly devoted to her. So why not? As expected, Gu Yizhou was profoundly moved. He held Dang Yang tightly and kissed her forehead gently. No need to thank me, Yang, you deserve all of this. The two shared a knowing smile. I was so angry I couldn't stand watching anymore. Just as I rushed over to give Gu Yizhou a fierce kick, the scene before my eyes suddenly shifted, changing like scenes in a movie. After a dizzy spell, I was reborn, too. I was reborn at 16. On the day my family moved into a riverside villa, Dang Yang was the daughter of my father's good friend. Her biological parents died in a car accident, and as no one was willing to adopt her, she lived in a local orphanage for several years before my father found her, and by then she had only been at our house for 3 months. Her life was tragic, yet she was resilient. She was alone, yet kind and adorable. Nobody could help but love her. Just 3 months after she arrived at our house, feeling sorry to keep her living in the attic, my parents actually bought a riverside villa for her. And this is when I was reborn. I heard my father's excited voice. Alright, kids, go pick your own rooms. Any room is fine except for your mom and dad's master bedroom. I remembered, on the day we moved into the new house, our parents let us each choose our own rooms. Dang Yang and I both eyed the room on the second floor facing south. Not only did it have a luxurious bathtub, but it also had floor-to-ceiling windows facing the sparkling river view. With this in mind, I decisively headed upstairs. I want this room. After I told my dad that, Dang Yang also came over. Her expression instantly brightened. Wow, this room is so beautiful. Mom, can I live here? Dad paused, startled. I had already anticipated Dang Yang's reaction and replied coolly, are you deaf? I said I want this room. Hearing my blunt retort, Dang Yang immediately looked flustered. I'm sorry, sister. I really didn't hear you. If you like this room, you can have it, honestly. Any room would be fine for me. Compared to my room in the orphanage, this is heaven and earth. Mom and dad have been so kind to me. I'm really afraid I won't be able to repay you. The same old sugar-coated words, though they sounded incredibly fake. Some people were genuinely moved. Xinyan, why don't you let Yang have this room, and you take the one downstairs? Dad hesitated before speaking. Mom chimed in, yes, Xinyan. The rooms upstairs and downstairs aren't much different. And Yang really is quite pitiful. The same scenario, the same words. However, unlike my shocked and bewildered feelings in my previous life, this time my heart was serene. Mom, Dad, let's get this straight. I am your biological daughter. My parents exchanged glances, then Dad continued. Xinyan, your mom and I have decided to formally adopt Yang. From today on, both of you are our dear daughters. Dang Yang covered her mouth in disbelief, tears brimming in her eyes. Really, Mom, Dad, are you really willing to adopt me? Gu Yizhou also looked surprised and pleased. You're adopting Yang. Mom nodded affirmatively, her eyes full of tenderness. Yang, now I really am going to be your mom. Dang Yang threw herself into my mom's arms, her tears streaming down her cheeks. Mom, thank you, Dad. I really love you so much. Ugh, I couldn't help but retch. Due to the particularly loud sound, everyone turned to look at me. Gu Yizhou frowned deeply, clearly displeased. Gu Xinyan, what are you doing? Sorry, I apologized, waving my hand. I might be pregnant. As soon as I said that, everyone stared. Then I remembered that I was only 16 at this time and slapped my forehead in annoyance. Wrong. I mean, I might have a stomachache. Mom and Dad looked somewhat speechless. Dang Yang's tears stopped midway, and her emotions were suddenly disrupted by my comment, leaving her looking quite awkward. Since you're adopting Dang Yang, I'll just move out. I don't want this room anymore. I'll clear out the space, and from now on, she can be your biological daughter. We'll meet again some other time. With that, I started to push my suitcase, ready to leave. Gu Xinyan. Dad called out angrily, don't be too willful. Who's being willful? I just don't want to be the dispensable side character anymore, nor do I want to end up betrayed and dying miserably on the streets in this life. Dad, I'm serious. It's either Dang Yang or me. You and Mom decide. Xinyan, what has Yang Yang done to upset you? Why have you become so selfish? Mom's face fell as she scolded, with my full support. Dang Yang Yang's spirits returned, her eyes reddened. Tears streaming down as she pleaded, Dad, Mom, please don't fight over me. I'm not worth it. Enough. Gu Xinyan. Gu Yizhou hugged Dang Yang Yang, shouting at me. Apologize to Yang Yang. Now. I rolled my eyes. No wonder I couldn't stand up to her in my previous life. This life. I refuse to continue like this. So what if I'm just a minor character? Can't I go on strike? Can't I distance myself from this family? Can't I seek my own happiness, if this place doesn't appreciate me? I'll find somewhere that does. Goodbye, big brother. If you want to apologize, do it yourself. I'm not sticking around. Seeing that I was serious, my dad frowned. Gu Xinyan, you're still a minor, and we have custody over you. Indeed, I'm not yet an adult. If I were, the first thing I would do is move my household registration and stop having to deal with all this nonsense. You can let me stay, but first, I don't agree to you adopting Dang Yang Yang. She can only stay with us temporarily. Second, this room must be mine. No discussion. My dad remained silent, watching me quietly. After a while, he finally spoke calmly. We've made up our minds about adopting Yang Yang, and that won't change. As for the room, Xinyan, you already have enough. Why must you compete with Yang Yang for it? Despite foreseeing this outcome, my heart still ached uncontrollably. What do I have? I used to have parents and a brother who loved me. But now, they've been taken by Dang Yang Yang. If I don't leave now, I'll end up like I did in my previous life, watching Dang Yang Yang win over my parents and brother. The day the favored female lead has her happy ending is the day I'll end up dead on the street. I sighed. Then there's nothing left to discuss. I'm sorry, Dad. You were the one who pushed me away first. From now on, my life has nothing to do with you. Finally, my dad lost his temper, his voice fierce. Gu Xinyan, can't you understand reason? If you walk out that door today, never come back. Xinyan, apologize to your dad right now, or even I can't help you, my mom said sternly, glaring at me. Dang Yang Yang, who had been weakly leaning on Gu Yizhou, now opened her eyes wide, a triumphant smile flashing across her face. She didn't even try to hide it. In my previous life, I often saw that smile on her face. When I fought tooth and nail for this room and still lost, she smiled just like that. I still remember how thrilled and delighted Dang Yang Yang was when she moved into this room. Thank you so much, sister, she said, her mouth thanking me, but her eyes gleaming with triumph. The joy and pride of victory were evident in her gaze. My parents took her and Gu Yizhou on trips without me. When they returned, Gu Yangyang gave me a tea-scented smile and said, Sister, Mom and Dad were worried that going on the trip would distract you from your English exam next week, so they didn't take you along. You're not upset, are you? It wasn't just me who had exams, Gu Yizhou had them too. Yet, because there were only 4 tickets available, my own parents chose to take this adopted daughter on a trip instead of me. Later, I asked my mom sadly why she did that. Xinyan, you've already been to Beihai, haven't you? Yang Yan has never been on a trip. Don't you think she deserves a little pity? That same line again. Why should I care whether Dang Yang Yang is pitiable or not? It's not like I made her an orphan. What about Gu Yizhou? He's been there too. Mom was at a loss for words and could only compromise by saying, next time we go on a trip, we'll make it up to you. Naively, I believed her. In this world, what parents wouldn't love their own daughter more than an adopted one? But as it turns out, they exist, and I had to encounter just that. My parents began to frequently forget about me. They would take Gu Yizhou and Dang Yang Yang to the movies, and I wouldn't know until they returned at night. A family of 4 went for an outing in the countryside, and I only heard about it weeks later from them. Dang Yang Yang increasingly acted coquettishly around our parents because it worked wonders. One day, she expressed her wish for an iPad, and the next day, Dad bought one for her. In the morning, she mentioned wanting a particular handbag, and by evening, Mom presented it to her as a gift. She had already surpassed me in my parents' hearts, even receiving more pocket money than me. Gu Yizhou was worse, turning into a total sister spoiler, of course, not spoiling me. Instead, he took Dang Yang Yang around and introduced her to his friends. Every time he came back from playing sports, he brought her favorite bubble tea. He splurged on tickets for her to go see her favorite idols in concert. Because Dang Yang Yang disliked little cats, he even discarded the cat I had raised for years without a word. Devastated, I cried, but my dear brother casually remarked, why bother with such an animal? It almost scratched Yang Yang last time. It should have been thrown out long ago. In fact, my cat was always well behaved and never attacked anyone unless provoked. My dislike for Dang Yang Yang grew, while the rest of the family became increasingly fond of her. In my previous life, I could never understand why this was happening. It was only on my deathbed that I figured it out. It turned out that Dang Yang Yang was the beloved main character of a group favorite novel, and I was just a disposable side character. Everything smooth for 15 years was merely setting the stage for her arrival. This life, I refuse to endure it any longer. It's just death at worst. I want to see if she can still have her happy ending if I don't follow the script. Apologies are out of the question. I will never apologize in this lifetime. Take care, Mom and Dad. Half a month later, I moved into the most prestigious mansion in City A's wealthiest district. In this place where the average house price was $400,000 per square meter, I truly learned what the phrase "every inch of land is worth its weight in gold" meant. A woman in a flowing white gown approached me with a cheerful smile. "Sinyan, godmother." I cracked a brilliant smile at her. "Did you bring all your luggage, just this little?" "Yes, I brought everything. I don't own much." "Good, I'll have Assis take you to your room on the 3rd floor. "Thank you, godmother." Assis, like me, was in his 3rd year of junior high but was already much taller than me, at least 183 centimeters, with a handsome and refined demeanor typical of a wealthy family's young master, exuding a presence that could be summed up in just 4 words: reserved and distant. Brother Louis, on the other hand, has a more gentle demeanor and appears more cultured. Both brothers are extraordinarily handsome, the kind that could mesmerize anyone effortlessly. No wonder wealthy people like to marry celebrities. It guarantees good looks for the next generation. After all, Mrs. Liu was once famed for her stunning beauty that triumphed over others, winning her the beauty pageant crown of her time. The elevator reached the 3rd floor. I pushed open the door, despite being mentally prepared. I was still astounded by the sight before me. The room was so spacious I could run inside it. Luxurious crystal chandeliers, elegantly vintage European-style beds. Through the glass, the entire city's nightscape was in view, truly befitting of an $800 million mansion. I gave Louis a slight smile. "Thank you, young Master Liu." He nodded slightly, perhaps feeling too aloof, and added softly, "You're welcome." After Louis left, I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows. All was quiet around. Yet in the distance, neon lights flickered, homes lit up beautifully. I never expected our City A to have such a serene and tranquil place. The view here definitely surpasses that of our riverside villa. I can't help but remark, the life of the wealthy is truly simple yet grand. The next 2 days were for final exams. I had previously lied about breaking my leg to get a week off from the class teacher. Finishing the exams also marked the end of my junior high days. Just as I reached the school gate, I saw my dad's car. It seems he was here to drop off Dang Yang Yang for her exam. She's my classmate who transferred to this school 6 months ago. Truly a great dad. Sister, what a coincidence. Dang Yang Yang saw me and waved happily. My dad's gaze fell on me. His originally gentle and loving expression instantly turned very cold. I knew he was waiting for me to humbly bow my head, deeply regret my recent actions, and ideally, burst into tears begging for his forgiveness. As I walked closer, "Hello, Uncle Gu." As soon as I spoke, the person opposite turned livid, his eyes suddenly ablaze with anger. "Gu Sinyan, what kind of attitude is that?" I shrugged. "It seems I shouldn't have greeted you. Next time, I'll just act like a stranger." "Right." My dad looked at me intensely, extremely disappointed. "Gu Sinyan, if you don't move back home within 3 days, don't bother returning ever again." "Okay, Uncle Gu." With that, I walked away without looking back. After lunch, I returned to the classroom. Dang Yang Yang was inviting the whole class to her birthday party. As classmates took the invitations, they all showed envious expressions. "Wow, Dang Yang Yang, your house is in Xingshi Jiangnan. Aren't the houses there very expensive?" "It's more than just expensive." My dad said it's all villas there, each worth at least 20 million. "Dang Yang Yang, your place isn't a villa, is it?" Dang Yang Yang covered her mouth, smiling broadly. "My home is indeed 2 stories. And right across from the river view. Wow, I want to go. I want to go. I've never seen what a riverside villa looks like." Me too, me too." The classroom was buzzing with excitement. After a while, Dang Yang Yang approached me with an invitation, her face brimming with pride. "Sister, will you come to my birthday party?" Facing her triumphant expression, I took the invitation without a second thought. "Sure." Her smile froze. She clutched the invitation tightly, unwilling to let go. I knew Dang Yang Yang just wanted to show off by inviting me, just to add to my troubles. She didn't really want me to attend her birthday party. If I casually greeted our parents there, her status as an adopted daughter would be exposed. She wouldn't dare do such a thing. I said sarcastically, "Aren't you inviting me to your birthday party?" "Let go of the invitation then." Dang Yang Yang forced a smile. "Sister, if you're busy, you don't have to come." "Who said I'm busy?" I'm very free. Her hand still didn't loosen, and she put on a troubled expression. I'm just worried that if you suddenly show up at home, it might upset Mom and Dad, who have just started to feel a bit better these days. I gave her a cold smile. Aren't you overstepping your boundaries? They are my biological parents. Dang Yang looked at me deeply, the fake smile fading from her eyes. She couldn't pretend anymore. You might not know yet, but Mom and Dad have decided to send me to Hamlin Academy for high school. Since you voluntarily gave up on this family, you should stay far away. Why come back and humiliate yourself? Her words didn't surprise me. In my past life, Dang Yang attended Hamlin Academy. This school is famous nationwide for its high tuition fees and excellent faculty. One term costs 300,000 yuan, and 1 year is 600,000 yuan. Gu Yizhou, who was in the same grade as us, also went to Hamlin Academy. Together, just our tuition fees amounted to 1-2 million yuan a year. Why do I say our? Because I wasn't there. I attended a very ordinary high school because I had good grades, while Dang Yangyang's were poor. Xinyan, you are academically strong, and it wouldn't matter where you study. Yang is different. If she doesn't work hard during these 3 years, she won't be able to get into a good university. I heard Hamlin Academy hires top teachers. So Mom and Dad decided to transfer Yang to that school. This is what my mother told me in my past life, and what my father did to me. I cried and protested, even starved myself, but nothing changed their minds. They firmly enrolled Dang Yang in Hamlin Academy. It's unbelievable to outsiders, sending the adopted daughter to a school with tuition fees of 600,000 yuan per year, and the biological daughter to a school costing only 10,000 yuan, and no one in the family saw anything wrong with this. Every night at the dinner table, listening to Gu Yizhou and Dang Yang discuss the interesting happenings at their elite school was more painful than torture. Eventually, I chose to board at school and never went home again. Memories end. I was about to mock Dang Yang when a familiar voice suddenly interrupted. Yang. A flicker of emotion crossed the depths of Dang Yang's eyes as she looked at me strangely. The next second, she fell backwards. Jiang Chen's urgent voice came through. Gu Xinyan, what have you done? It has to be said, Dang Yang still had some tricks up her sleeve. She had set me up again, helped up by Jiang Chen. Dang Yang's eyes welled up with tears as she sobbed pitifully. Brother Jiang Chen, I just wanted to invite my sister to my birthday party and find a chance for her to clear up any misunderstandings with Mom and Dad, so she could move back home. But she pushed me to the ground without saying a word. Jiang Chen glared at me furiously, his tone full of disdain. Gu Xinyan, are you sick? Looking at this childhood friend who was once inseparable and always chatty with me, now he couldn't even bear to look at me. I kept my emotions in check, my gaze icy. Right. Do you have medicine? He choked on his words, then angrily retorted, I'm warning you, don't mess with Yang at school. She's not someone you can bully, which I of yours saw me bullying her. I saw it with both of my eyes. Jiang Chen, let it go. Dang Yang grabbed the agitated Jiang Chen, gently biting her lip while speaking pitifully. My sister must still be upset about the time I gave you her love letter. I'm sorry, sis. It wasn't intentional. I just wanted to help you because I thought you liked Jiang Chen and he should know. Hearing this, Jiang Chen's eyes flashed with realization, and his tone was filled with disdain. Gu Xinyan, there's no chance between us. I like Yang. Please stop deluding yourself. Whispers began to circulate around them. Some looked on with glee. What's going on? Did Gu Xinyan confess to Jiang Chen? Seems like she got rejected. What kind of plot twist is this? The childhood friend loses to a new challenger. Wow. What a dramatic scene I've stumbled upon today. I looked at Dang Yang. Her expression was innocent, like a deer, but her eyes sparkled with smugness and provocation. She had only been in my house for 2 months when she took a love letter from my room and handed it to Jiang Chen. I had written it before the new year, intending to confess, but never did for various reasons. Yet, Dang Yang, without my consent, decided to deliver it. Later claiming if you like someone, you should proclaim it to the world with naive enthusiasm. I think she's really treating me like a fool. So, the darling of the story, alright then, let the games begin. 2 months of summer vacation passed quickly, and the school year began. Luxury cars gathered at the entrance of Hamlin High School, all there to drop off students. Uncle Wang respectfully opened the car door for Luisi, and then approached me. No need, Uncle Wang, I'll do it myself. I smiled at him and stepped out of the Bentley. Walking up to Luisi, I deliberately took his hand. Noticing his slightly surprised look, I raised an eyebrow. Big brother, why are you looking at me like that? in just a couple of seconds, Luisi's handsome face returned to its usual calmness, letting me hold his hand. Many new students looked our way, whispering among themselves, "My God, who is this guy? He's totally my type. Quick, quick, I want all the details about him in 3 minutes. Who's the girl next to him? Could she be his girlfriend? Oh no, I think I'm heartbroken. She must be his sister, right? Didn't she call him Big Brother?" Luisi's prominent status meant he was thoroughly scrutinized on the first day of school, and by association, I also became the talk of the town. Right after the first class, my deskmate Zhou Shui couldn't contain her burning curiosity and eagerly asked me, "Xinyan, are you and Luisi actual siblings?" "Nope, I was adopted," I replied nonchalantly, shaking my head. She immediately got excited. "Wow, what sort of golden koi fish life do you have, being adopted by the school director's wife? Does their family need more children? I want to be adopted too." I chuckled. "Sure, I'll ask my mom tonight. If the director's wife doesn't need more children, can you ask your big brother if he needs a girlfriend? I can adapt to any style, whether it's a sophisticated lady or the girl next door." Zhou Shui's eyes sparkled with stars. "No problem. Also, if your elder brother doesn't like me, could you please ask your other brother if he might? I've had a crush on him for a very long time. It feels like it started in a past life. Please give me a chance to be considered your sister-in-law. Miss, aren't you being a bit too greedy?" 9. Before I knew it, it was already noon. Most of the girls in my class had become familiar faces around me, and several asked if they could join me for lunch. I hadn't realized before how easy it was to make friends. Even though I hadn't done anything special, they seemed to have already accepted me as one of their own. During lunch, the seats to my left, right, and across were all filled. It was obvious that these girls came from wealthy families. The watches on their wrists alone could pay for a semester at Hanlin Academy. Even Zhou Shui, who was chirping about wanting Mrs. Lu to adopt her, turned out to be the only daughter of the chairman of the Yang Group, a company worth over 10 billion. Right now, Miss Zhou was trying to get information about Lu Ishuan from me. "Gu Xinyan," a sudden and unexpected voice rang in my ear. I looked up, meeting the puzzled face of Deng Yang. She, a girl with short hair, was walking side by side with another, holding their lunch, probably looking for a place to sit. "Hi, what a coincidence," I greeted her nonchalantly, then turned back to Zhou Shui to continue our earlier conversation. Deng Yang didn't leave. She watched me with an odd expression. She seemed confused and frowned slightly. "What are you doing here?" Her question was rather amusing. I had to look up again and respond. "What else? Eating lunch, of course." Deng Yang scoffed with a tone of contempt. "Don't tell me you also study here." Her words were clearly meant to mock, drawing curious glances from others. "Who are you?" Zhou Shui looked displeased. Deng Yang straightened up. "And who are you? Why do you care who I am? Don't you see we're talking?" "You," Deng Yang was about to retort but was stopped by the short-haired girl beside her, who subtly shook her head. "Sorry, Miss Zhou, we didn't mean to disturb you." The short-haired girl seemed wary of Zhou Shui and earnestly apologized before quickly pulling Deng Yang away. They sat down far away. Deng Yang's gaze was heavy, occasionally falling on me. 10. After school, I was waiting for Luisi in the second-floor corridor. Deng Yang seemed to have been lying in wait, pulling me into the stairwell. "Gu Xinyan, what's going on here?" I turned off my phone, my tone lazy. "What?" She looked incredulous. "Since when did you become the daughter of the school director? What's it to you?" I was too lazy to deal with her and turned to leave, but she pulled me back. Deng Yang's lips curled into a cold smile. "Don't you want to see the look on your parents' faces when they find out you become the school director's daughter? Why should I care about their expressions? I've already cut ties with your family." I shrugged nonchalantly and added, "I learned that from you. After all, other people's parents are always better, aren't they?" Stung by my retort, a sharp emotion flashed through Deng Yang's eyes. I didn't stay any longer, waving casually as I walked away. 11. As Lu Isi and I were leaving the school, Uncle Wang's car was already parked by the roadside. "Miss Xinyan, here's your milk tea." Before opening the door for me, Uncle Wang took a warm cup of milk tea from the car's cup holder. I had only mentioned in passing that morning that the milk tea from the new shop at the corner is quite good, and he had remembered. "Thank you, Uncle Wang," I said sweetly. "You're welcome." Suddenly, I turned to Lu Isi and asked, "Do you want to try this? It's really good." Lu Isi, who was unexpectedly brought into the conversation, looked at the milk tea in my hand with reluctance. "No thanks, just try it." He shook his head firmly. "Alright, never mind then." As the car passed the next intersection, I felt a bit stuffy and casually rolled down the window. Just as I turned my head, I saw Deng Yang and Gui Zhou standing under a bus stop sign. They were waiting for a bus, my dad, no, Gu Hongbin. Although he had made a decent amount of money in the past few years, we had just swapped our house and the annual tuition for Deng Yangyang and Gu Yizhou wasn't cheap. With mortgage and tuition fees, the financial burden was significant. It seemed they definitely didn't have extra money to hire a driver, so the kids had to settle for the bus. When Deng Yangyang saw me in the car, her expression changed slightly, her eyes burning with intensity, her hands clenched into fists. Gu Yizhou looked extremely surprised, as if he couldn't believe his eyes, and called out my name, Gu Xinyan. Such bad luck. I rolled my eyes at them and unhesitatingly rolled up the window. The light turned green, and the car sped away. Wednesday, the last 2 periods in the afternoon were for club activities. I was in the anime club, which I had been dragged into by Zhou Xiweshing. It didn't really matter to me. I was just there to fill a spot. The president of the anime club, a senior wearing glasses, mentioned that she needed to prepare for college entrance exams in the coming year and would be busy, so she was looking to recruit an assistant to help with some daily tasks. Would anyone like to volunteer? After some inquiry, a crisp voice came from the corner. I would. I looked in the direction of the voice and, unsurprisingly, it was Deng Yangyang. That was typical of her, always eager to take on such tasks. It was a chance to stand out and exercise some privileges. Okay, you're in, the president decided definitively, once all the members were present. The president mentioned that every new semester, Hamlin Academy's anime club hosts a cosplay party, and this term was no exception. Today's meeting is to discuss the venue for this cosplay event. The room immediately buzzed with excitement. Some suggested renting a hotel. Others proposed renting a boat. President, why not have it at my place? Deng Yangyang started her usual antics. Ever since her family moved into the new Riverview villa, she seemed to enjoy showing off. Like before, and like now, I secretly mocked Deng Yangyang in my mind. Despite being the beloved protagonist of a story, her perspective was shallower than a children's pool. She still hadn't realized the gap between her and her classmates. The president, hearing her suggestion, agreed without much consideration. After all, renting a venue costs money. And if someone was offering a place for free, why not? Since the cosplay party was set at the Gu residence, I certainly wasn't going to attend. However, during the second club activity, I overheard the collective complaints of the members. My gosh, their house isn't even as big as my garage. I can't believe she had the nerve to offer it. Exactly. And there wasn't even a single maid. We had to run around just to get something to eat. Let's not even talk about it. They didn't even have a driver. That night, my dad's car was involved in an accident, and our driver had to go to make a police report. I wanted Deng Yangyang's family driver to take me home, but she actually told me they didn't have a driver. Can you imagine? Dressed up as a bunny girl, I had to hail a cab online myself. It was so embarrassing. It was such a drag. I wasted the outfit I had custom made in Korea and left after just 3 minutes, after the girls finished venting. They walked out of the restroom, complaining loudly. I turned on the tap and saw the last stall being pushed open. Deng Yangyang's face was as dark as charcoal, mixed with humiliation and indignation. She stiffly walked out. Our eyes met. Her expression grew even uglier. I calmly washed my hands, ready to leave. Gu Xian Yen. She abruptly stopped me. I stood still, looking at her coldly, stiff-necked and with a look of disdain. Deng Yangyang said, even at my worst, I'm a million times better than you. I have a mother who cherishes me, a father who loves me, and a brother who dotes on me. What are you even worth? I understood she was upset, but who gave her the audacity to take it out on me? And what are you worth? Only your poor parents would treasure someone like you. Everyone has a brother. For someone like Gu Yizhou, even licking Louis C's boots is deemed too crude. You haven't seen my brother Louis Sin yet. Compared to him, Gu Yizhou is less than a maggot in a latrine. Deng Yangyang's face twisted with hate, her eyes almost bursting with fury as she glared at me. I actually quite enjoyed her current state. Know your place. Don't try to fit into a class that isn't yours. Even in Hamlin Academy, there are hierarchies. You should have some idea of where you truly belong. Clearly infuriated by my words, she swung her hand at me, but I quickly grabbed her wrist. You better think carefully about whether you can afford to provoke me. She bit her lip hard. Motionless, I scoffed coldly at her. 14, perhaps due to receiving too many complaints, the president announced that this year's Anime Society cosplay party would be held again. It's important everyone speaks up. This might also be my last time attending the cosplay party at Hamlin High. And like everyone else, I hope it can be a grand event. The club members cheered again and began to offer suggestions. If any club member could provide a venue, that would be ideal. It seems our president has taken the lessons from last time to heart. Zhou Shui looked at me excitedly. Xian Yen, why don't you talk to the school director's wife and let us have the party at your place? I might never be your sister-in-law, but before I die, I just want to set foot on the sacred grounds of No. 1 Mansion. Can you fulfill this wish for me? Seeing her playful expression, I couldn't help but smile. I thought about it and then nodded. Alright, I'll talk to my mom. She was stunned. Are you serious? Yes, our place is pretty suitable, should meet the president's requirements. Zhou Shui started shouting excitedly. Damn, that's No. 1 Mansion. Isn't that where no house is under 2,000 square meters? Hearing Zhou Shui's words, the president was thrilled. Really, Xian Yen? You'd really let us have the party at your house? I need to talk to my mom first, but it shouldn't be a problem. For a moment, the whole room buzzed with excitement. The screams nearly lifted the roof off the house. Everyone was buzzing with excitement, discussing what to wear for the big day. Xinyan, which character does your brother like? Tell me, quick. Zhou Shui shook my arm impatiently. I like Princess Elsa, I blurted out. Really, MHM? Someone with sharp ears quickly joined in. What about your second brother? He likes Anna. There were murmurs of surprise all around. At that moment, I didn't realize that these two careless remarks were like shots of adrenaline to the girls. Mrs. Liu readily agreed to my request and enthusiastically asked which character I wanted to cosplay. I hadn't really decided yet. What about your classmates? Speaking of which, I'm not sure. But there should be some dressing as Princess Elsa and Princess Anna, Disney princesses. Okay, I got it. I'll have someone prepare an evening gown for you, guaranteed to dazzle everyone. Mrs. Liu patted my shoulder with confidence. Thank you, Mrs. Liu. Out of caution, I added, but please, nothing too extravagant. I'm afraid I might not pull it off. No problem. Can I cosplay as the evil queen then? She was clearly getting into the spirit. It's true that every woman harbors a young girl's heart. I laughed. Of course, you can. She then enthusiastically discussed my character. How about Princess Aurora? A true love's kiss from a prince could wake her up. How romantic. I'll even arrange a handsome prince for you. Cinderella would be nice too. Thank you, Mrs. Liu, I said sincerely. Silly child, she touched my forehead. I should be thanking you. On the night of the party, the Liu residence almost turned into the premiere of Frozen. Everywhere you looked, there were Princess Elsas and Annas. When I saw Zhou Shui, perfectly embodying Elsa, make her grand entrance, I was stunned. My goodness, Xinyan, you look absolutely stunning today. Which princess are you? I think Sleeping Beauty. Oh wow, this dress is too beautiful. It's nearly blinding me, and it looks so familiar. Not just her. I dared not even look in the mirror, despite my repeated requests to Mrs. Liu for something not too flashy. It seemed she hadn't listened. The dress, which Mrs. Liu had urgently airshipped from a collector abroad just a few days ago, had even appeared in a fairy tale movie before. Thank you, you look beautiful too. Is your brother Liu Yixuan at home today? Zhou Shui never missed a chance to mention her crush. He said he'd be back today, should be home soon. After chatting briefly with Zhou Shui, more people came to greet me, all the girls dressed to the nines. At first glance, you'd think you were in a fairy tale world. Soon, I saw Deng Yang. She was wearing a simple dark green long dress with a plain headband, and I wasn't sure who she was cosplaying, but her dress looked quite plain and cheap, probably bought online, and it paled in comparison to the intricate, brightly colored gowns around her. Who is she playing? Cinderella, probably the Cinderella who hasn't transformed yet. Still scrubbing pots in the kitchen, people openly mocked her. Deng Yang tried to ignore the stares of others and walked into the hall, pretending to be calm. When her gaze landed on me, she was momentarily lost. Her eyes lingered on my dress for a full half-minute. A surge of jealousy crazily took over Deng Yang's cheeks, almost distorting her beautiful features. I calmly enjoyed her reaction. Xian Yen, a clear voice called out from the other side. I looked over and saw a face as gentle and beautiful as jade. It was Liu Yixuan. It's you, brother. I quickly walked over, giving him a radiant smile. Liu Yixuan sized me up slightly. Princess Iroh. He even knew the character I was cosplaying today. Sorry I'm late. His words made me laugh. I forgive you, my prince. May I have the honor of a dance later? That depends on your sincerity. Liu Yixuan's eyes slightly lifted, his peach blossom eyes deep as pools, a warm smile playing on his lips. Luckily, I brought a gift today. With that, he magically produced a dazzling pearl necklace. I was genuinely surprised. You're giving this to me? Yes, it took me a long time to find it. Liu Yixuan helped me put it on. The cool touch brought a strange feeling that rose from the bottom of my heart, but I quickly suppressed it. Thank you, brother. By the way, how is father doing? Hearing my swift change of topic, Lu Ishuan pursed his lips, smiled lightly, and then nodded. He's recovering well, can walk now. And the doctor said he should be fully recovered next month, so, you'll be going to school soon, end of this month. Lu Ishuan was in his last year of high school. He had been delayed because his father, Chairman Lu, had an accident and needed surgery abroad. Knowing that Chairman Lu was alright, I felt relieved. Thank you, Yen Yen, you've saved our family. Suddenly, Lu Ishuan hugged me, sincerely whispering in my ear. I hugged him back. No need to be polite, it's what I should do. Throughout the party, Dang Yangyang's gaze followed me like a shadow. She even followed me when I took the elevator to my room on the 3rd floor. Gusenyan, you've awakened the plot, haven't you? I looked up, displeased. What are you talking about? Dang Yangyang stared at me intensely, trying to find clues on my face. Don't deny it, otherwise things wouldn't have developed like this. She wasn't stupid, of course, I wouldn't admit it. Are you crazy? She stared at me. Her eyes filled with a dark scrutiny. How did you come to know Lu Ishuan and his family? What does it have to do with you? Get out, I need to change my clothes. She glanced around subconsciously. Is this your room, or is it yours? Dang Yangyang clenched her fist, jealousy and hatred emerging in her eyes. It was understandable. Just the size of my room could easily surpass the total area of the 1st floor of her family's villa. Not to mention this was the prestigious #1 mansion. As the favored female lead in a group pampering story, she couldn't accept the scenario of a minor character turning her life around and utterly overshadowing the main heroine. You don't need to say it, I can guess. You saved Lu Ishuan's father, right? Impressive, changing the fate of our city's richest family. If it isn't awakening the plot, what other reason can explain it? As a minor character, not only did you deviate from the script, but they've even started resorting to underhanded tactics. Gusenyan, if I could snatch the first opportunity from you, I can snatch it a second time too. Dang Yangyang did not bother to hide her hatred towards me, her expression fierce and intense as she provocatively challenged me. I lazily looked at her and chuckled lightly. What's the matter? Tired of your dear dad and mom so soon? I thought you'd have some genuine affection for them. TSK. They'd be heartbroken to hear you say that. Your official partner is Jiang Chen. And the beloved brother Gui Zhou is an important male character in this story. According to the setup, you and Jiang Chen are supposed to get married right after graduation and live a life full of love, having children. Are you sure you want to jump out of this warm and comfortable easy mode and forcibly change the plot? Aren't you afraid of irreversible consequences? Dang Yangyang stood still, her eyes piercing like X-rays, as if trying to see right through me. So you finally awakened. So what if I have? Her tone was cold and sharp. You, just a cannon fodder, dare to dream of changing the ending. Everything is up to us. I've changed the plot, and I'm living just fine. I won't let you have your way. And who are you to stop me? Dang Yangyang suddenly became furious. Because I'm the female protagonist. This world must revolve around me. Haha. The mockery on my face must have been very obvious, or Dang Yangyang's expression wouldn't have looked so ugly. Are you done talking? If so, leave. I need to change my clothes. I changed into a more striking and beautiful green court dress and descended the stairs. As the melodious piano music started, I danced a dance with Lu Ishuan. I indulged in the attention of the entire room, every girl present watching me with envy. As the dance ended, Zhou Shui approached me, her tone somewhat emotional and sour. Actually, you and Lu Ishuan are quite well matched. What are you talking about? He's like a brother to me. He's not really your brother, and besides, the way he looks at you doesn't seem like he's looking at a sister. I didn't really want to discuss this topic. Tonight's flamboyance was not really my style. It was all out of necessity. After the dance with Lu Ishuan, I saw Dang Yangyang leaving alone. Now, it was time to see the results. A few days later, I received a call from my father, Gu Hongbin. He demanded that I come home that evening. This was the first time in months he had initiated contact with me. At 7 in the evening, Uncle Wang dropped me at my front door. Miss Sinyan, do you need me to accompany you upstairs? I shook my head. No need, Uncle Wang. Just wait here for a bit. Alright. My father glanced at Uncle Wang's car, his expression complex, under the watchful eyes of Gu Izhou and Dang Yangyang. I calmly walked into the living room. What's the rush in calling me back? Is something the matter? My mother came forward, showing a concerned smile. Nothing serious, Sinyan. We just missed you and wanted you to come over for dinner. Where have you been all this time? How have you been? After over 3 months of her biological daughter's disappearance, she finally thought to ask this question. I glanced at the dining table, which indeed looked lavish, and nodded nonchalantly. I've been fine. but I'll skip dinner. I still have English homework to do. If there's nothing else, I'll be going now." My mother paused, seemingly not expecting me to reject her so straightforwardly. "Now you're really something, huh? Do I really need to beg you just to have a meal together?" My dad said, his voice dripping with sarcasm and his expression full of disdain. "Say whatever you want. I really don't have time. I'm leaving now. Sit down," my dad suddenly shouted, his voice booming as if releasing a long-held frustration. I knew it. I was holding back frustration too. His macho temper wasn't new. It was usually manageable, but he would erupt into rage whenever opposed. For the past few months, he must have been waiting for me to have a miserable time outside, hoping I'd return home and kneel before him, begging for forgiveness for days on end. Unfortunately for him, not only was I doing fine, I was actually doing quite well and had even started calling someone else my parents. He must have been furious inside. I eventually sat down at the dining table. It wasn't that I was afraid of my dad, I was more curious about what he was up to. "I heard you're living at No. 1 mansion now." "Yes." "How did you get involved with the Liu family?" "Chairman Liu had an accident while hiking. He fell off a cliff, and I saved him." My dad snorted coldly. "So you just decided to adopt them as your parents?" "I had nowhere else to go at that time, and they thought I was an orphan, so they adopted me. Is there a problem?" With a loud snap, he slammed his chopsticks down on the table. Gu Yizhou looked at me sarcastically. "Gu Xinyan, isn't this a slap in the face for your parents? You really went out of your way to climb the social ladder." "I like it that way. What's it to you?" Deng Yangyang, with his innocent, doe-like eyes, timidly said. "Brother, don't talk about sister like that." I believe she had her reasons. I nodded. I indeed had my reasons. Their house is too nice, their son's too handsome, and Mrs. Liu is too beautiful and kind. I've always wanted a mom like that because I genuinely wanted to be part of their family, so I agreed. The faces across from me turned sour. My mom looked hurt. "Xinyan, you, Mom, sorry, it's like how you felt when you first saw Deng Yangyang and really liked her, hoping she could be your daughter. The first time I saw Mrs. Liu, I really liked her too. You don't know how beautiful and graceful she is. I truly wanted a mom like her, so you understand, right?" My mom didn't respond, only silence followed. "Enough, Gu Xinyan. Did you come back just to upset your parents?" Gu Yizhou couldn't hold back anymore and burst out. "Of course not. I'm just telling the truth. Now that I have brothers like Liu Isi and Liu Ishuan who are the heartthrobs of the entire school, who would even remember you?" Gu Yizhou's face turned an ashen hue, his lips pursed tightly, unable to utter a single word. Seeing everyone silent, I put down my chopsticks. "Sorry, it seems I've ruined this meal. I think it's best I leave now." "Xinyan," my mom finally called out to me. "What?" She hesitated, then said, "Sorry, I really neglected you before. I apologize. Can you forgive me?" "Of course, I can." I smiled, devoid of any real emotion. She breathed a sigh of relief. "You've been living with Chairman Liu for so long. We must have caused them a lot of trouble. Your dad and I would like to visit them. When can we arrange a time?" "No need." Chairman Liu is currently abroad and hasn't returned yet. Mrs. Liu is usually very busy with work, so she doesn't have much time to meet with guests. You haven't even asked. How do you know they don't have time? Because I really don't want to make the appointment for you." My mother frowned and spoke in a dissatisfied tone. "Why is that, Mom? Whether you just want to visit or have other motives, it's easy for others to tell." The other party paused slightly. "What are you talking about, child?" "You know exactly what I'm talking about. Gu Xinyan, is this how you repay us after we've raised you all these years?" My father, with a cold expression, finally spoke up again. I rubbed my forehead and sneered. "You are my biological parents. You raised me until I graduated and now you want credit for that. Don't worry, I will repay you for all these years' expenses. And once I turn 18, I will move out and we won't have to deal with each other anymore." "Fine, very well, you ungrateful child. Get out now, just leave." "Alright, I won't disturb you any longer. Goodbye." I quickly got up, fearing they might change their minds. 21. I thought I had made my position clear enough, but obviously, others didn't take it seriously. Early Saturday morning, the butler, Mr. Lin, told me someone was looking for me. When I saw who it was, it turned out to be Deng Yangyang. "Sister." She walked towards me, carrying a lunchbox with a joyful expression, her face beaming. "Mom made soy beef, your favorite from before. She specifically asked me to bring you a box. Here." Deng Yangyang looked at me, her eyes curving into crescents, her gaze smiling, innocence written all over her face. "There are no taxis or buses near mansion number 1. She must have walked here." Sweat evident on her forehead. "Anyone who didn't know better might think we were close." She came all this way on foot early on a weekend just to bring me a box of soy beef. I don't need it, you can take it back. No reward without service. Besides, I was wary she might have tampered with it. Sister, are you still mad at me? I'll do anything to make it up to you. I can even move out immediately. Mom and Dad really miss you. Please come back with me. Dang Yang-Yang's ability to lie through her teeth was truly remarkable. Who she was trying to fool with her pitiful act was anyone's guess. Whether you move out or not has nothing to do with me. Don't use that as an excuse to see me. Take your lunchbox and go back. Dang Yang-Yang looked even more aggrieved, tears ready to fall. Sister, I really hope you can forgive me. I'll do anything. I glanced at her indifferently, just as I was about to speak. Just then, Lu Yixuan, dressed in a white t-shirt and black pants, came down from upstairs, pausing slightly when he saw Dang Yang-Yang's situation. Lu, Sr., Dang Yang-Yang turned her head, feigning surprise, and cautiously called out. Lu Yixuan's clear and questioning gaze slightly lifted. And you are? Dang Yang-Yang instinctively looked at me, bit her lip lightly, and timidly continued. Senior Lu, my name is Dang Yang-Yang. I'm a freshman at Hanlin Academy, and also, Gu Xinyan's sister. Lu Yixuan nodded in realization, politely greeting her. Hello, senior. Dang Yang-Yang's voice was soft and melodious, and coupled with her sweet, demure appearance that hinted at more to say, she was indeed a pleasure to watch. Why are you two standing here so early in the morning? Please, take a seat, Miss Dang. Dang Yang-Yang hesitated symbolically for a few seconds before finally accepting. Thank you, senior. 22. It turned out that Dang Yang-Yang, the beloved heroine of the group, really had something special about her. Just one morning, and it seemed she had already made a connection with Lu Yixuan. The next day, Sunday, Dang Yang-Yang repeated her actions and visited the Lu family, continuing with the same story as the day before. Sister, are you really not going to come back with me? The key was that while she spoke, she kept an eye on the movements upstairs. Her intentions were as clear as day to everyone. I could see that one of the most important traits of a group's beloved heroine was to have a thick skin. She was lucky, for not long after, she indeed ran into Lu Yixuan. Their interaction was fruitful today. They even added each other on WeChat. When leaving, I saw Dang Yang-Yang's lips curling up in a smile she couldn't suppress, and her gaze towards me returned to the cold, challenging look of the past. 23. A few days later, I unexpectedly ran into a distraught Jiangchen at school. In a stark departure from his usual spirited demeanor, he was humbly pleading with Dang Yang-Yang. Why haven't you answered my calls these past few days? I've been busy. Yang-Yang, what happened? Nothing happened. Jiangchen, stop bothering me. Dang Yang-Yang's face was filled with impatience, and her tone was thick with disdain. This was a stark contrast to the lowly Jiangchen at that moment. I had always thought that Dang Yang-Yang liked Jiangchen a bit, given his handsome looks, which many girls in school had a crush on initially. His family was also well off, with his parents running a factory that brought in a neat sum each year. In a previous life, it didn't take long after Dang Yang-Yang came to my house for her to win Jiangchen over. The two were inseparable and passionately in love, getting married right after graduation amidst everyone's blessings. And they were a very happy couple. Unexpectedly, a mere action by me, this inconsequential female character, could also change the fate of the male protagonist, Jiangchen. Dang Yang-Yang clearly was no longer interested in him. She was now setting her sights on Lu Yixuan under my aggressive pursuit. Although Jiangchen's family had some money, it was nothing compared to the old money of the Lu family, which could crush him in an instant, not to mention that even in terms of looks, Jiangchen couldn't compare. How handsome is Lu Yixuan? To put it in Zhou Shui's words, Lu Yixuan was so handsome that every strand of his hair seemed like it had 800 girlfriends. It's just that this wasn't some domineering CEO novel, but rather a simple school romance story. Male protagonist Jiangchen wasn't depicted as having an outrageously handsome and powerful character, but as a rich, gentle, warm, and handsome guy. If it were like in the previous life, where this insignificant female character, was madly in love with Jiangchen and didn't meet someone as extraordinary as Lu Yixuan or live in a top-tier wealthy area like one mansion, Dang Yang-Yang's feelings for Jiangchen would still be as good as before. Unfortunately, Dang Yang-Yang was destined to be restless. Watching me, the insignificant side character, rise above and live a better life than hers was more unbearable for her than death. 24. On Friday evening after school, I, Zhou Shui, strolled on the pedestrian street for a while. When I got home, I was surprised to find Dang Yang-Yang sitting on the sofa in the Lu family's living room, with butler Lin holding a medicine box. Lu Yixuan stood tall beside them. I frowned. What happened? Everyone turned around. I saw Dang Yangyang's trouser leg rolled up high, with blood flowing from her knee. Butler Lin held the medicine box, apparently ready to tend to her wound. Sister, Dang Yangyang seemed a bit flustered. I was speechless. It was the same old act again. Doesn't she ever get tired of acting? What exactly is going on? After Lu Yixuan explained everything, I finally understood the whole story. Dang Yangyang came to Mansion No. 1 to find me and just happened to bump into Lu Yixuan, who was out for a run. They saw a kitten entangled in the wire mesh by the flower bed. Dang Yangyang volunteered to rescue the kitten, but ended up getting cut by the rusty wire, which is why she looked like this. Lu Yixuan had no choice but to bring her back first to clean the wound. This plot, it seems vaguely familiar. In my previous life, Dang Yangyang and Jiang Chen adopted a dog together, named Pudding or something. It was said that they found a dying puppy during an outing, and Dang Yangyang decided to adopt it after rescuing it. This dog also became a beautiful witness to their sweet love, as it was the first time they adopted a pet together. She was Pudding's mom, and Jiang Chen was Pudding's dad. Later, I inadvertently learned that the puppy was actually deliberately injured and abandoned on the roadside by Dang Yangyang. She staged this scenario because Jiang Chen liked dogs, aiming to advance their relationship. Glancing at the dirty little white cat beside me, a sweet and sticky voice suddenly rang in my ears. Senior Lu, don't you think it's cute? Should we give it a name? How about Pudding? Dang Yangyang's beaming face came into my view. Sure enough, she was trying to make Lu Yixuan the male lead. Jiang Chen liked dogs, Lu Yixuan liked cats. She really knew how to appeal to their preferences. I looked towards Lu Yixuan, who was also looking at me. Our gazes met. How about calling it Ugly Monster? It really is quite ugly, don't you think? I said coolly. Lu Yixuan's eyes flickered, his tone teasing. It really isn't very good looking. Dang Yangyang's expression stiffened, and her smile faded slightly. 25. Naturally, the little cat ended up staying at the Lu residence. It became Dang Yangyang's wingman, increasing the frequency of her visits to Mansion No. 1. Even Mrs. Lu got to know her, occasionally having a few words with Dang Yangyang. I often heard noisy voices in the garden. Pudding, come here, come to mommy, soon. She might say, Pudding, go to daddy. In the evening, when I went downstairs, I saw Lu Yixi idly playing with the little clown cat. Brother, what brand of cat food did you feed Pudding last time? She seems to like it. Dang Yangyang moved closer, her tone carrying her unique coquettishness. As she realized what she said, a blush appeared on her face. Sorry, Lu Yixi, can I call you brother like my sister does? Lu Yixi didn't make a fuss and just nodded indifferently. Suit yourself, brother. She called out, beaming. I suddenly stopped in my tracks. Dang Yangyang's ambition seemed even greater than I imagined. Not only did she want to make Lu Yixuan the male lead, but she also wanted to switch Lu Yixi into the role of Guizhou. She wanted to catch both brothers in one go. Then, she would completely take my place. 26. When Dang Yangyang was about to go home, I called her upstairs. I'll go back with you. What? She slowly raised her head. You wanted me to move back, right? I agree. Help me with my luggage. Let's see what excuse you'll have to come here then. Heh. Dang Yangyang, as if hearing some incredible joke, crossed her arms and looked at me with arrogant provocation. Gusinyan, what are you? To ask me to carry your luggage? You can move or not, but let me tell you. I'm going to tell you. I will live in this house sooner or later. She finally dropped the act. Quite a bold statement, I sneered. Nice daydream. To end up like the beloved heroine of a novel. You really are a rare flower, thick-skinned as a city wall. Do you really have no clue how that cat came into the picture? So what, Gusinyan, I've told you, if I could snatch something from you once, I can do it again. I'm already tired of staying at your place. I really like the number 1 mansion. Only a house like that suits me. You're right. Compared to the Lu brothers, Guizhou is less than a maggot in a latrine. You can keep Jiang Chen. I've lost interest in him. Why don't we each go our own way? You go back to the Gu family, and I'll move into the Lu residence. I've never seen someone so shamelessly thick-skinned in my life. Dang Yangyang truly shattered my perceptions, my temples throbbing. I won't let you have your way. She smirked casually, her tone both arrogant and unrestrained. Then we'll see if you have what it takes. Soon, Dang Yangyang couldn't be arrogant anymore. Madame Lu suddenly announced that the family would temporarily move abroad. Although Chairman Lu had recovered, he still needed to continue rehabilitation, and the medical team overseas recommended not returning home yet to ensure he could receive checkups at any time. After some thought, Madame Lu decided to move the family to Europe. They would return after 3 to 5 years, once Chairman Lu's health was better. After all, their business in China was well managed by others, and they didn't need to worry much. The house would also be looked after. Dang Yangyang's expression upon hearing this news was as if she'd been bombed. After being dazed for a while, she finally found her voice. So, your whole family is moving abroad, yes, and you should probably take the clown cat back with you. Lu Yixuan handed Dang Yangyang the cat food along with the clown cat, her expression still confused. She stared blankly at me. What about Gu Xinyan? Xinyan will of course go with us. Lu Yixuan said matter-of-factly. On what basis? Dang Yangyang exclaimed, her eyes shooting a fierce and hateful glance at me, as if I had just ripped out her heart. Her intense reaction left Lu Yixuan somewhat puzzled. What do you mean on what basis? Realizing her outburst, Dang Yangyang's expression turned flustered. I mean, her parents will miss her. She can't go with you. That's probably something she should decide for herself. Xinyan, do you want to go with us? Something crossed my mind. I heard from Uncle Lin that you used to live in a castle in France. That was bought by my grandfather a long time ago, in Lyon in the south of France. Why? Lu Yixuan looked at me, puzzled. I smiled. Well, I've never lived in a castle before, so I definitely want to check it out. Lu Yixuan seemed relieved, subconsciously patting my head. Don't worry, I guarantee you'll fall in love with it after one day. Dang Yangyang almost bit her lip bloody, her fingers digging deep into her flesh. She tried her best to restrain herself, but her face was still dark as thunder. That night, Uncle Wan drove me back to the Gu family home. Since I was going abroad next month, I wanted to sort through my belongings stored at home to see if there was anything necessary to take. Dang Yangyang was also in the car, holding the clown cat. Her expression made me feel like she could strangle the clown cat at any moment. Finally, when we arrived home, she threw the cat on the ground and turned her head, facial contortion. Gu Xinyan, feeling proud, aren't you? Of course, I am proud. Especially seeing her on the verge of madness, it's simply delightful. I wouldn't say I'm proud, but I'm in a good mood. Dang Yangyang gritted her teeth. So what if you went abroad? You're just a minor character destined to fail. True, this minor character is finally getting away from you, the beloved heroine of our group. From now on, we'll each go our separate ways, completely unrelated. Best wishes to you and Jiangchen for a sweet and loving life. As for me, I've recently found Lu Yixuan quite handsome, and since we're not real siblings, you know what I mean. Dang Yangyang had been eyeing Lu Yixuan for a long time. Perhaps already fantasizing about her married life with him and living in mansion no. 1. My words were akin to a stab to her heart. Sure enough, the next second, Dang Yangyang's expression could be described as ferocious. Having lived 2 lifetimes, I finally experienced the sheer thrill in this moment. Yangyang, what are you yelling about? A voice came from the entrance. It turned out to be my parents returning. Xinyan, you're back. Mom looked surprised to see me. Just came to get some things. I'll be leaving soon, I responded indifferently and headed to my room. Soon after, my mom came to my room and started a chat, obviously hinting she had something to say, but I didn't want to ask directly. Xinyan, your dad and I have discussed it, and since you like the room on the 2nd floor, we'll let you have it. Yangyang agrees too. How ironic. Delayed concern is less valuable than weeds. No need. I'm going abroad next month and won't be back for a few years. You guys can use the house however you want. Mom looked slightly shocked. You're going abroad? Yes, Mrs. Lu has decided to move to France temporarily, and I'll be going with their family. I'll probably finish my high school there. Mom's face changed, her tone filled with blame and dissatisfaction. Do you really plan to never return to this home? You 4 seem to be living happily without me. I'm also very happy over there. It's better this way. We won't disturb each other. Gu Xinyan. Don't forget who gave birth to you. Of course, I haven't forgotten. Don't worry, once Dad turns 60, I'll start sending you living expenses every month. No need. If you really want to show gratitude, introduce Mrs. Lu to your father now. I stopped packing, understanding her real motive. I had seen this coming. In my past life, around this time, my father Gu Hongbin's company faced financial difficulties and nearly collapsed. It was my mother who urged me to seek help from Mrs. Jiang. Jiang Chen's mother, Mrs. Jiang had always liked me, virtually considering me her daughter-in-law since I was a child. Before Dang Yangyang entered our lives, I thought I would marry Jiang Chen, but as things changed and my relationship with Jiang Chen deteriorated, nothing came of it. Mrs. Jiang liked me as much as she disliked Dang Yangyang. She always felt Dang Yangyang was cunning and had ulterior motives. Seeing her like Su Yingmei from Eve's Temptation, I must say, I agreed completely with Mrs. Jiang's view. After Jiang Chen fell for Dang Yangyang, Mrs. Jiang felt guilty towards me. Knowing my deep feelings for Jiang Chen, she didn't hesitate to help our Gu family through tough times when I asked for her assistance. It was only with the financial backing from the Jiang family that my father's company was able to recover and get back on track unexpectedly, in this life. My mother changed her mind and asked me to seek help from Mrs. Liu, indeed, Mrs. Liu. The chairman's wife of Hanlin Group, has far more influence than Aunt Jiang. I gave a cold smile. Give me a reason. Your father's company is in trouble and needs funds. Sorry, I can't help. My mother looked at me in disbelief. Gu Xinyan, we are your biological parents. Can't you do even this small thing for us? Have you forgotten how you were raised all these years? I smirked. So, you remember I'm your biological daughter. Why does Deng Yangyang get a room upstairs with a luxury bath and floor-to-ceiling windows, while I'm put in the maid's room on the first floor? Why does Deng Yangyang attend a prestigious high school that costs 600,000 a year, while I was sent to a normal high school that costs only 10,000 a year? What 10,000 a year normal high school? Aren't you also at Hanlin Academy? She interrupted impatiently, because in the last life, that's how you treated me. I couldn't help but shout. You and Dad spent a fortune on Deng Yangyang's wedding in a 5-star hotel, millions for Guizhou to study abroad, but wouldn't spend a dime on my medical bills. In the previous life, a few days before Deng Yangyang's wedding, Guizhou returned from France to attend, and the family was joyous. During those days, I had a severe cold and work wasn't going well, so I called my mom. You better not come to Yangyang's wedding. She still holds a grudge against you for seducing Jiang Chen. It's best you two don't meet. We can't afford to lose face. My mother's words made me shiver. The seduction she mentioned referred to a year ago, on the day Deng Yangyang and Jiang Chen got engaged. I accidentally got drunk, and the next morning found myself in Jiang Chen's bed. Deng Yangyang nearly passed out from crying, but eventually, Jiang Chen swore that he fell asleep and nothing happened, and she forgave him. The two reconciled as if nothing had happened. But I was almost laughed out of teeth by relatives from both the Gu and Jiang families. My dad immediately announced he was disowning me, saying he'd rather not acknowledge having a shameless daughter like me. From then on, his wealth would only go to Guizhou and Deng Yangyang. Everyone sympathized with Jiang Chen and Deng Yangyang, blaming me, the schemer, for ruining the couple's engagement ceremony. But the truth was, I never drank. On the day of the engagement, I only had a glass of orange juice handed to me by Deng Yangyang, and then I lost consciousness. No one was willing to listen to my explanation, not even my closest family members. Furious and trembling, I finally coaxed the truth out of her on the morning of her wedding day over the phone. Maybe the impending happiness clouded her judgment, making her lower her guard. Over the phone, Deng Yangyang proudly spat out the truth. Yes, the drug in your glass was indeed placed by me. So what? Who would believe you? Gu Xinyan, Jiang Chen's mother likes you too much, and you, a mere supporting character, are just too inconvenient. I had to teach you a lesson. That was exactly what I needed from her. Is that so? I wonder if you can still smile so proudly at the wedding in a bit. Realizing she was being recorded, Deng Yangyang quickly reacted, and in a desperate move, had one of her obsessive admirers stab me to death. In the end, I died alone in that quiet, dirty alley, remembering that tragic and pitiful version of myself in the past life. My hatred freely spread, yet my mother looked at me with disdain. Have you gone mad? Babbling about what? After a long while, I finally managed to regain my composure. Why do you think that by introducing Mrs. Liu to you, she would unconditionally inject funds? I don't want to be involved in your affairs, nor be accused of leveraging gratitude for personal gain. Solve it yourselves. I ignored my mother's words and crisply sent a video to Aunt Jiang. Afterwards, I turned off my phone for a week and informed the housekeeper Lin, anyone looking for me at Mansion No. 1 will not find me. Half a month later, my dad indeed went bankrupt. The houses in prosperous southern Jiangsu were listed online at extremely low prices, and to evade creditors, I heard the whole family planned to move to the countryside. Deng Yangyang realized the severity of the situation and hurried back to look for Jiang Chen, only to find that he had already gone abroad. She didn't even know which country he had gone to. Deng Yangyang shamelessly went to find Zhang's aunt, but only received a fierce glare in return. The reason turned out to be a video I had sent. It was a video of Jiang Chen kneeling on the ground, desperately pleading with Deng Yangyang. At that time, Deng Yangyang was in the process of pursuing Liu Yixuan and had already agreed to be Jiang Chen's girlfriend. However, she quickly changed her feelings and dumped him, unaware that Jiang Chen was obsessively in love. He kept clinging on and wouldn't let go. Coincidentally, I was going home to pick up some things that evening and managed to film that short video at the doorstep. Seeing her son so humiliated, Zhang's aunt, who already disliked Deng Yangyang, was furious to the point of nearly having a stroke and quickly arranged for Jian Chen to drop out of school and go abroad. When my parents later went to ask for help, the proud and haughty Aunt Jiang outright declared she was cutting ties with the Gu family, and so, my dad went bankrupt. Upon learning all this, I was quite calm. In my heart, their family and I had long been strangers. On Friday, I saw my dad at the school gate. He looked very haggard, as if he had aged 10 years overnight. The family car had been replaced with a Wuling Hongguang, and today, he was there to handle the transfer of Gu Yizhou and Deng Yangyang to a school in the countryside. Both seemed to be transferring to a rural school. Gu Yizhou looked utterly listless, like a frostbitten eggplant. As for Deng Yangyang, she appeared quite calm, but I knew she was just pretending to be composed. Being the beloved heroine of the story, she had really gone off the rails this time, if she hadn't made a mess of things. She could have easily won Jian Chen's heart. Even if Zhang's aunt didn't like her, it wouldn't have stopped her from marrying Jian Chen right after graduation and becoming his pampered young wife. She could have enjoyed a life of luxury, spending her days at tea parties with friends, shopping to her heart's content. Now, everything had turned into nothing more than a fleeting illusion. All her years of hard work went down the drain overnight. Deng Yangyang had struggled to make it out of a small-town orphanage, and now she was being sent back to square one, back to the countryside. How could she possibly accept this? She must be heartbroken. When my dad saw me, his expression was grim, but upon seeing Lu Isi by my side, he said nothing. Uncle Wang's car had arrived. As I walked over and closed the car door, I caught Deng Yangyang's gaze unexpectedly. I felt a chill run through me. Exaggeration aside, she looked like a venomous snake, staring at me with cunning and malice. It was chilling to the bone. I still called Gu Yizhou to warn her to be cautious around Deng Yangyang. Gu Xinyan, what else do you want? The voice on the phone was noticeably upset. What do you mean, what else? Our family has already suffered so much because of you, and you still come to gloat. I know you're going abroad. Big deal. You're amazing. Just don't call again. I wanted to hang up, but I asked one last question. What do you mean suffered because of me? Gu Yizhou sneered dismissively. You're really something, Gu Xinyan. Our parents raised you, and yet you just watch as our family goes bankrupt without lifting a finger to help. I'd like to see what sort of end you people will meet in the future. Don't worry, I've already been through the worst. As for you, you're just getting what you deserve. As soon as I finished speaking, there was a sharp click from the other end of the phone. On Saturday, my mom called to say they were moving to the countryside in a few days. Xinyan, your dad and I would like to invite Mrs. Lu and her family for a meal. After all, you've been staying at their place for so long, and soon you'll be going abroad with them. They really never give up. No need, we don't have time. How can you not have time? I promise, we just genuinely want to express our gratitude. Do you think I would believe you? There was silence on the phone for a moment. Xinyan, I've been thinking about a lot of things recently and feel quite sorry for you. Before you go abroad, I want to apologize and truly thank Mrs. Lu, with no other intentions. Can you agree to this? After a long pause, Mrs. Lu isn't home these days. Then, I'll ask if Lu Yixuan is available. That works, as long as our intentions are clear. The next day, Gu Yizhou sent me the location of the farm. Before leaving, I was still hesitant and held on to Lu Yixuan. You really don't have to go. I can handle it myself. He narrowed his eyes, a smile curving at the depth of his brows. It's just a meal with your parents. Are you too nervous? I sighed. There's definitely no good coming from them. They might even ask you for money. Please just ignore them. Lu Yixuan obediently nodded. Okay, I'll listen to you. Since it was for dinner, we arrived at the farm in the late afternoon. My mom warmly greeted Lu Yixuan, and even my dad showed a rare smile. Gu Yizhou and Deng Yangyang were also there. At the dinner table, Lu Yixuan was graceful and charming. My mom seemed to really like him, chatting incessantly. Deng Yangyang was diligently pouring tea, her eyes almost glued to Lu Yixuan's face. The spicy chicken was a bit too hot, and I choked. Deng Yangyang hurried outside to get me a glass of ice water. Sister, are you okay? Meeting her concerned gaze, I took the water glass without a word and sipped a little. Meanwhile, Lu Yixuan stepped out to take a call. My mom hesitated, trying to speak several times. Xinyan, Mrs. Lu's family is so wealthy, sending a couple more people abroad wouldn't matter, right? Your brother's grades are so good. It's a pity to move to the countryside, and Yangyang doesn't want to go either. Maybe. I put down my chopsticks and looked at her expressionlessly. My mom suddenly stopped talking and didn't continue. After dinner, I felt a bit sleepy. The night had already fallen outside. If you're tired, you can rest in the guest room for a while. Let young Master Lu stay tonight. Your dad has booked several rooms at the farm, one for each of you. I just want to talk to you a bit more. a chill ran through me. It wasn't until she escorted me to the guest room door that I stopped my departing mother. Mom, you do know about Lu Yixuan's identity, right? She looked at me somewhat perplexedly. Of course, what about it? Nothing, just a reminder that he is Lu Zhenan's eldest son, the chairman of Hanlin Group, and the future heir to the entire Lu family. I hope you can keep this in mind. My mom's expression faltered slightly, her cloudy eyes seeming to shrink back. Immediately, I turned around. I know. 32. I suspected that my parents were hiding something from me, but I never imagined they would do something as crazy as arson. By the time I noticed smoke wafting into the room, flames were already shooting up the corridor. I broke out in a cold sweat and hurriedly tried to find Lu Yixuan, only to discover that the door wouldn't open no matter what I did. The flames outside grew fiercer, and my heart raced even faster. Uncle Wang, suddenly. I remembered that Lu Yixuan had asked Uncle Wang to wait for us outside the farm. I quickly pulled out my phone, but before I could dial, a loud bang came from the window behind me. I turned to see Uncle Wang holding a sledgehammer, smashing the aluminum window to pieces. Miss Xinyan, quickly come out this way, Uncle Wang called to me. I rushed over and anxiously asked, what about Yixuan? Young Master Yixuan is already outside, waiting below. Relieved, I leaned out the window and sure enough, I saw him standing on the cobblestone path. I quickly climbed onto the windowsill. Although it was a bit high, I had no choice but to grit my teeth and jump. Fortunately, Lu Yixuan caught me steadily. I almost couldn't get up, my heart pounding furiously. I was terrified. Seeing my pale face, Lu Yixuan asked with concern, what's wrong? Clutching my chest, I said fearfully, I'm just glad you're okay, otherwise, I would have had to kill myself to apologize. He even managed to laugh. Is that an exaggeration? Not at all. Even 100 lives of mine wouldn't compensate for yours. 33. When we rounded to the front yard, the row of guest rooms we had just been in was engulfed in flames. My mother stood trembling by the flower bed, looking utterly terrified. I approached her and asked, Mom, what on earth happened? Seeing me, she reacted as if she'd seen a ghost. Xinyan, you're all right. Don't tell me it was you who set the fire. Tears immediately began to fall from my mother's eyes as she shook her head frantically. It wasn't on purpose, as I thought. A chill ran down my spine. Have you lost your minds? Her tears fell even harder. It was Yang. She said that if we set the fire and staged a scene where I saved Lu Yixuan during the fire, Mrs. Lu would surely send her abroad to study. She also said that you had originally saved Chairman Lu by sheer luck. We didn't expect tonight's wind to be so strong, making the fire so fierce. I was dumbfounded by Dang Yangyang's stupidity. And where are Dad and Gu Yizhou? They went to call for help to put out the fire. The fire was uncontrollable. All we could do was wait for the fire brigade to arrive. Fortunately, Lu Yixuan had already called 119. It wasn't long before I saw my dad and Gu Yizhou stumbling towards us. Seeing us, both their faces were ashen, and they were at a loss for words. Where's Yang? My mom suddenly asked. The two men were stunned. Didn't Yang come out? The atmosphere fell into an eerie silence. I rather enjoyed this kind of ambience. Could she have been burned to death? The three of them visibly started trembling. If it was just her, that would be one thing. But if others were harmed, Dad, you better prepare for prison. You've seen the news before. It was as if a tightly stretched string had suddenly snapped. My dad collapsed to the ground. 34. Bad news. Dang Yang didn't die in the fire. The good news is that she's disfigured. She suffered burns over 70% of her body, and I heard she even lost her fingers. Even if Jiang Chen truly loved her, if he tries to come back to her after escaping his mother's clutches, he might be horrified at her appearance. I'm not sure about others, but Jiang Chen is definitely one to care about looks. As for my parents, although the fire didn't cause any casualties, the farm suffered a huge loss, and the owner quickly took them to court. My father is the main offender, and my mother an accomplice, facing 3 to 10 years in prison, though the exact sentence isn't clear yet. Gu Yizhou, because my parents took on some of the responsibility and he's still a few months shy of adulthood, managed to dodge the bullet. Though he avoided prison, the mountain of debt is not a small burden, and the farm owner is no philanthropist. I heard he might have to drop out of school to work. The proud and self-assured Gu Yizhou can no longer continue the glory of his past life, becoming just another insignificant ant among the masses. Speaking of Dang Yang, I visited her in the hospital. She was wrapped up like a mummy, unrecognizable. The moment she saw me, she started screaming and making a fuss. Since her face was wrapped in bandages, I couldn't make out her expression, just a pair of eyes filled with frenzied anger, from which I guessed she wasn't exactly offering me a friendly greeting. I shook my head and sighed lightly. There's nothing much, just came to see your sorry state. and I won't be coming again. Our grievances can finally end. You were probably planning to burn me alive that day, otherwise, my door and windows wouldn't have been inexplicably jammed. Maybe this is the universe's way of saying that evil brings its own punishment. Try to accept it and live a good life in the future. Though that might not be likely, each of us won once, so let's call it even. Oh, sorry, I forgot you don't have hands anymore. A harrowing wail filled the hospital room. The nurse hurried over to see what was happening, and I quickly apologized. I'm sorry, I was just trying to comfort her. But she got too agitated. 35. Leaving the hospital, Uncle Wang's car was waiting for me outside. They say it's easy to go from frugality to luxury, but hard the other way around. I've gotten used to living like a lady these days. I suppose it will be hard adjusting back. Back at number 1 mansion, I began packing my things. In fact, other than a few clothes and toiletries, there wasn't much to pack. I plan to say goodbye to Madame Liu when she returns. I should start looking for a place online. I'm not going to shoulder any of Guizhou's debts. Renting a small room doesn't seem too stressful. As for tuition, after finishing this semester, I'll need to transfer immediately, as I can't afford the tuition at Hanlin Academy. A knock on the door. Come in. It was Louis' son. He immediately noticed the packed luggage on the bed, his expression subtly changing. What are you doing? I smiled at him. Just sorting some things while I have the time. Are you moving out? Pretty much. Why? Louis' son looked at me seriously. Aren't you comfortable living here? It's not that I'm uncomfortable. On the contrary, I'm too comfortable. And I'm afraid I won't be able to handle the psychological gap in the future. Besides, I really have no reason to stay here anymore. Thank you for taking care of me during this time. But all good things must come to an end. I'm about ready to leave. Lu Yixuan paused for a moment, his expression unusually gentle. Where do you plan to move? I'm not sure yet. Still looking for a place. You can stay here as long as you like. It's convenient for school, and you're in the same grade as Louis. I might transfer to another school next semester. His eyes widened in surprise. Why? He truly seemed oblivious to the ways of the world. I was about to explain when Lu Yixuan seemed to understand. Hanlin Academy has several scholarships available every year that cover full tuition. You really don't need to transfer. Really? This was the first time I'd heard of it. If I could get one of those scholarships, there would be no need to transfer. As for living arrangements, I really don't like being indebted to anyone. Originally, I moved here because it was mutually beneficial with Mrs. Liu. I saved Chairman Liu's life, and she helped me with my revenge. Now, we are even. I remember you once said we're both characters in a book. You're the cannon fodder female side character, and I'm just a passerby without even a name. Lu Yixuan, as if recalling something, stared at me intently, waiting for my response. I indeed had that conversation with him, that day. I stumbled upon a news report about Lu Zhinan, the city's wealthiest man and chairman of Hanlin Group, suddenly going missing. Seeing the news, I had an epiphany. In my past life, I had come across the same news. His favorite pastime was to ditch his bodyguards and venture alone into the wilderness. He ultimately met his demise in a freak accident. Chairman Liu had fallen off a cliff while climbing Wuji Mountain. Due to delayed rescue and prolonged unconsciousness, he died at the age of 50. I remember, in my previous life, the search team found him on the third peak of Wuji Mountain. With that clue, I immediately rented a car to Wuji Mountain, searched alone in the deep mountains for half the night, and finally found Chairman Liu, who had been unconscious for 2 full days. I fired a flare and called the citizen hotline. Soon after, a helicopter hovered overhead. In the hospital, Lu Yixuan first saw me and strangely asked why a girl would appear in the deep mountains in the middle of the night. Oddly enough, I told him the truth. To this day, I still remember his indescribable expression at that time. You didn't believe it. Lu Yixuan shook his head. I've actually believed you for a while now. Can you tell me what ultimately happens to my dad in the original story? I paused, then said, he passed away after lying unconscious in the mountains for 7 days. The search team arrived too late. Lu Yixuan didn't seem too surprised, as if he had anticipated my answer, suddenly raising his head, his eyes bright and his tone sincere. Xinyan, you may never understand what my dad meant to me and our family. You can stay in our house forever, and even make any request of me. I knew Lu Yixuan wasn't confessing his feelings but expressing gratitude, but it was still too charming. Any request? He smiled lightly. Yes. My heart raced. It was like being given a powerful sword. Lu Yixuan seemed too generous towards me. What if one day I asked you to be my boyfriend? Well, why not stay if it's free? I'm not one to be overly sentimental. Besides, who could resist Lu Yixuan's gentle tone? So, I continued living at No. 1 mansion until I graduated high school. And then I went to France for university with Louisi in the same year, coincidentally. It was the prestigious school once attended by a previous acquaintance, Guizhou. On my first day, I wandered around the picturesque campus. Liu Ishuan took many beautiful photos of me, and later couldn't resist sharing them on social media. Guizhou, whom I hadn't contacted in years, liked the post. I didn't say anything, my heart didn't even flutter. To me at that moment, he was no different from a stranger. Our life paths were like two lines crossing and then diverging, growing ever more distant.